We are going live. It's funny. I always do that whenever we start. It's just like it going live, but usually it's like right then and there we go live. That's it. Well, hello everybody. We hopefully are live. At my new place. Woo!
It's awesome. This is great.
Oh yeah, it's going to be. It's going to only get better too.
I like it. It's very fun. So yeah. Welcome to the Smoke Signal, Smokeless edition.
Smokeless edition this time.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah.
But,
maybe the next one will be back to...
Maybe.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. But it was kind of the thing that I've always started January off. I know it's something that is weird, but, fasting things is a good thing.
I mean, it's not weird.
Yeah.
It's not weird at all.
How about weird is maybe the wrong word. Maybe... uncommon.
Uncommon. Well, because most people, when they stop smoking, it's usually permanent rather than just temporary.
Yeah, true. Well, I mean, even just the concept of fasting in general.
Right, yeah.
I think that that's something that is, choosing to fast. I don't really hear too many people talking about the religious side of it, because that's usually the motivation for me.
Now fasting is tied with like intermittent fasting, which is what people do.
Yeah, it's not really... Yeah, the religious motivation is not really there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it is a big thing. I don't know.
With how many churches there are and denominations, and the First Baptist, I think, splitting apart, I heard about, or something like that.
What?
First Methodist.
Oh, yeah, that would actually make sense.
Yeah, there's apparently a split there.
I mean, considering how woke the Methodist Church has gone, I would kind of understand that there would be some people that go like, there's things in the Bible that we're not talking about, and we're not... Yeah, I would understand. I can understand that would be...
I can get that, too.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, welcome to the Smoke Signal Podcast, the Smokeless edition.
Is this our first one of 2023?
This is the first one of 2023. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Haven't seen you since last year.
Happy New Year to you, too. What has it been, a year?
It's been a whole decade.
It really is my favorite dad joke. It's not been a decade.
Or...
It's been
I mean it's a new decade.
No, we're still in the 20 decade, aren't we?
I don't know. I know. I give up. I don't know.
Nope, not a new decade.
Nope.
Right. Just a new year.
Just a new year.
If we roll from 29 to 30, that's when it'll be.
Okay.
The new decade.
I'll save that one for the decade one later.
The decade dad joke.
Yes, the decade dad joke. Every dad should be making that one.
Exactly right. My favorite one was 99 to 2000. It's like, I haven't seen you since last century.
Oh man, that one's rare. Who knows when we get that one again?
I don't think I'll get the next one. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well,
we got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of subjects.
I know that, like. So I was thinking it could be an interesting idea to talk about, politics. There's a lot of stuff going on with politics. There's a lot of stuff going on with D&D. Specifically, there's a lot of stuff going on with movies and all sorts of stuff that's coming out this year. I think it would be an interesting idea to start with, well, for me, I've been thinking about politics. Especially in the new year, there's just been a lot that's been going on. The most interesting one that just kind of caught my attention has been the thing with the FAA and the downing of like the FAA computer. I really have no idea like exactly what ended up leading to the cause of that, because I don't think anybody has really actually heard the actual story of what was going on. But a computer glitch that leads to all of the planes in the United States being grounded seems a little suspicious to me, but I don't know. That's just my current thoughts. I think that that would be a fun thing to talk about at some point. The other thing, though, is there's a lot of chaos going on in the Dungeons and Dragons community that we could get into. I think that for those of you that aren't aware, Dungeons and Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast is going to update the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and they're moving to D&D 1, as they're calling it. And there was a leak that happened January 4th of this year that has a lot of content creators and people involved kind of up in arms, at least in terms of how the news is being received. That would be something that would be really interesting to talk about, is getting into that, the OGL and open game license that has been in place for the last 23 years that a lot of people are using to make their living. The other thing that I'm really curious about and thinking about is I've been talking a lot about a particular movie director. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Guy Ritchie, but Guy Ritchie is a very interesting movie director, and he's done some very popular films that I think most people would be very aware of, but I have been re-watching and revisiting some of his older films and just kind of taking them in because, as has been my want in the last couple of weeks, just focusing entirely on prepping for my own D&D campaign. The D&D campaign has a lot of themes that surround a central MacGuffin type item with a lot of fairly criminally inclined nefarious characters that are all searching for the same MacGuffin. And there are 3 different movies from Guy Ritchie that he has written and directed himself that all have very similar kind of premise. There is a bunch of criminal underground individuals that are all searching for or involved in trying to heist or find a central MacGuffin type item. So, yeah, I think for me, the thing that is the most interesting to start with is actually at the largest level is the political side and the FAA and everything that's been going on with the FAA computers and that whole downing of all of the flights that happened across the country. Did you actually hear about this?
Yeah, I heard about it. So I actually heard about it first when I was so I downloaded this app called Ground News.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I do like Ground News a
and
lot.
I was looking at it a little bit, and I saw that it was a computer glitch, which is strange as a computer glitch that grounds all flights.
So the other thing that's I like Ground News. I also really like the No Agenda podcast. So,
yeah.
So that is I wouldn't say it's a free shout out, but if you like very independent podcasting, similar to us, similar to what we're trying to do,
more or less,
they are miles and light years ahead of where we are in terms because they've been doing it for 15 years.
Yeah, they've been doing it a little longer.
Yeah, but if you've listened to the No Agenda podcast, they actually had a great episode yesterday.
Oh, really?
Because Adam Curry is a licensed pilot and likes to fly.
Oh, really?
And so he always, whenever there's news stories about anything airline related, he has a very unique perspective.
Well, I mean, yeah, as one should.
Yes. And so the stuff that he's talking about is all of this stuff is, for lack of a better word, it shouldn't be an issue to have this kind of thing go down. It's basically it's very simple. Just radio ahead and ask what this is.
Yeah.
And that's simple solution. Done.
You know what's weird though is this was followed up by I think it was Southwest. Well, they closed. They got rid of some 600,000 planned flights or something like that. No, I don't think it was 600,000. It was a lot of. It was 60% of the flights that they had planned were cut and canceled.
So are you talking about the one that was before this?
Yeah, it was right before it, days before.
So I think that was an interesting thing because of the model that Southwest uses in how that they function as an airline.
Right.
So a lot of airlines function off of the hub and spoke model where they have a central hub that they're able to kind of zip flights out of a central location or do some form of chain that connects through this central hub. And that model is not one that Southwest follows. So Southwest doesn't necessarily have a central hub. They kind of partner with smaller airports and things like that and are just kind of across the country. So in that sense, it just depends upon where weather hits, but it can make them more vulnerable to inclement weather and those kinds of situations.
Right.
I like Southwest. as kind of a company,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that they're going to last very long because the CEO or the founder is no longer there, and it's sort of that same idea that once the founder passes away, the people who carry it on need to have the same vision, need to have the same DNA, otherwise it's not going to last. And I don't think the people that are currently there have that actual heart behind what was originally done.
That's a common theme going on right now, especially with Wizards of the Coast, which is actually Mattel.
Hasbro.
That was close.
Yeah.
No, it's the same difference.
It's really the same. It's the same plastic that gets lodged in some kid's septum. It's
or into dad's foot embedded there. But no, it's the same thing. Like right now, corporations are focused on the impending, financial crisis that is being touted constantly. They keep downplaying it, but I mean, everybody's starting to see the signals. When you got a dozen eggs that costs you $10, it's like, okay, something seriously is wrong here.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Garrett was talking about with when he's working at Starbucks, like people got raises, but people's hours got cut.
Yep.
By a little bit. So that kind of evens it out.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also increasing their prices across everything, and they're starting to subtly encourage customers to add more things to their drinks so that they can get that little extra bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's going like across the board with literally all the companies and businesses right now. They're just trying to get more profit so they can weather the incoming recession, because I'm sure they're still fresh. A lot of these people are still fresh from 2008.
Yeah. That does kind of bring up just a lot of like big picture principle questions in my mind. And it's like, so what is the purpose of a business? Like
profit.
So like, yes, that is the purpose of why you go into business. If you only go into a business to make a profit, and that's your sole motivation for existing, that's not going to be it's not going to be a long lasting proposition in my mind. It just doesn't seem
unless
like
you get so successful that you build a monopoly, and
then there's the legalities of that, the morality of that, all that.
But no, I get what you're saying.
And I mean, I think like even the founding of something like at McDonald's, it started off as a core idea of how do we get food to people as fast as possible. Yeah. And that was their goal, was to actually serve people hot, fresh, at the time. Yeah. Hot food.
No, it's still fresh.
As quickly as possible.
I mean, the original McDonald's is now just the modern In-N-Out, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like when you lose sight of like what is the why of a business's existence.
Yeah.
That's going to be
well, I mean, things. I know for me personally, whenever I get around to possibly making a business of my own, like my incentive is not necessarily profit; it's to provide, a product for people who enjoy it and like it. So that's why I wouldn't, try and, get like anything more than like a 10% return or something like that.
Well, and that's where like just business mechanics and business acumen in general, but like that core of why are you doing this is if the only core reason of why you're in the capitalist system is because I want to make a 10% profit. I mean, you can do whatever.
Right.
And you're not going to want to stick to something as soon as it gets hard.
Yeah.
But if you have a deeper why, if you have a deeper passion, a deeper calling, like for me, like take, someone that like me with a magic background.
Right.
I really enjoyed performing magic for kids.
Right.
Because there was something that was really fun about using magic as a way to communicate life lessons and principles to someone at that young of an age. Mm-hmm. I learned that in taking and teaching martial arts classes. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about teaching kids to punch and kick. It was about teaching them how to be good kids.
Right.
It was about teaching them how to be good adults eventually, and learning principles along with punching and kicking and hitting stuff.
Right.
And so that is a really deeper why than just I want to teach kids how to punch and kick.
Yeah, punch and kick and have their parents pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
no, that's for sure.
And I mean, like, you can have that surface level of a motivation for anything, but if your goal is actually like that, but again, if that's the only depth that you have for your motivation, it's not going to go much further.
No.
So that's kind of why I also think, like, you know, back to the FAA, like Southwest, American, a lot of these airline companies,
Big ones, yeah.
and it doesn't really seem like they're actually they've lost the heart, they've lost the why. And yes, I understand that a large corporation, like a large business, does owe its
existence.
Yeah,
it needs to make a profit. It will to be a successful business. But
it depends upon, like, it ultimately comes down to the question, like, so who is your actual customer,
right?
And for a lot of these big corporations and companies, the customer is actually their shareholder, and their shareholder, that's who they're trying to serve.
Yeah.
And the way that you end up serving those people is just by keeping record profits.
Right.
And that's how, you know, and so that's an interesting kind of concept, question, thought of, like, where does it go from here? Because eventually you end up with BlackRock and Vanguard and those kinds of places.
That nightmare zones. Yeah.
No, yeah. The companies that own literally 60-70% of everything.
Which is obtuse. But I was gonna say, the other thing is that they literally can't fail because the government will always bail them out.
Yeah, they're too big to fail.
They're literally too big to fail because they're too big to fail because the government will come in and just bail them out.
Well, and see, like, then that's the other part of
it's
it.
Same
it's
thing
like
with banks too.
If we keep bailing out the companies that do this, eventually the actual system of government is going to have no solvency.
I mean,
eventually.
I mean, we're going to run out of money Thursday. Yeah. According to the Treasury Secretary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, you're absolutely right.
We got 6 days. Make it a good 6 days.
Yeah, apparently. Make it a good 6 days. Prepare. That's what she said. Prepare.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all right.
It's a little late for that.
Yeah. Can you just wait another till I get paid next at least?
Yeah, well, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So where did you hear that?
Oh,
like someone actually said.
Ground News.
Okay. Yeah.
With the Treasury Secretary.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I was perusing during lunch.
Interesting. Terrifying, but interesting.
Oh no, it's horrifying. I'm quite scared.
I mean, and that's the other thing too. It's like most people don't actually have, you know, a month's worth of savings or expenses saved up. It's going to be challenging, especially when that.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I'm no better. I only have 20 pounds of rice and 10 gallons of water.
Yeah.
In my pantry.
Yeah.
Which that'll get me a little bit.
Rice and water. It's something.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's not anything good. Oh, and I have 2 heat and eat meals.
Well, there you go.
And you can always just eat ramen straight up. Just go for it.
Yeah, you can also use it to repatch, drywall.
God, I remember that. Oh, I hate those videos.
It's so
funny.
No,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know. The concept of, like, the whole, like, world ending, like, everybody's just out.
Mm-hmm.
It seems completely mind-bogglingly impossible, but that's when, like, I'm glad to have friends that are preppers.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. It's good to be friends with the preppers, even though they're made fun of constantly.
Yeah, right.
Well, because it's going to be all the city people here who are going to be going out to the country begging for food, and the people out there are like, okay, can you work on a farm?
Can you work?
Can you do anything? And they're like, well, no.
I mean,
I'm a programmer. Like, oh,
TikTok,
cool. My computer doesn't work anymore because of the EMP.
TikTok's down.
Yeah, TikTok's down. Yeah, you can't be an influencer anymore. How about you go out and influence the chickens,
Oh, yes.
Or influence the sheep to get back in their pen. Exactly.
Yeah, and then that, I mean, I had a year of that, so it'd be fun to get back to it, but not if that's the reason.
No, yeah. Yeah, don't necessarily want to be there. No. I'd rather I'd rather just still put up TVs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like more and more people have been talking about that kind of, like, earth-shattering, like, just paradigm shift moment where everything breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're not quite there yet.
I
mean, as bad as things are, like that has to be like, in order for something like that to actually happen, there has to be like a coronal mass ejection that just decimates the world.
Everything.
Just a mass EMP across the whole bloody planet. Like satellites get knocked out, people in the ISS are probably killed immediately.
Yeah, they're up there without a paddle.
Yeah. And then, just knock out the world's electric grid, not just, the U.S.
Yeah. So there was actually a novel that I read that I was like, this was a long time ago, but it was back when I was much more very like always consuming the doomsday kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was called like Grid Down or something like that.
I feel like I've heard of that before.
But it was kind of like it was just someone that was like thinking about, okay, what would actually be the potential issues that we would run into that would happen in a grid down situation.
Right.
Like what would be the first things that would start to go in those situations. And it was one of those things where it was like there'd be waves of mass fatalities in certain ways, because obviously you have all the people that are currently on like life support, those kinds of things.
Or even diabetics with their fridges.
And that would be like a month later.
Yeah.
That would be the effect of those deaths. And then all of the medicines that need refrigeration, like the people that need that, then it's just waves of these things that kind of just happen.
Waves of mass death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
weeding out the weak.
No. What was that? It's that quote from The Office where he's like, "This country needs a new, or this planet needs a new plague.
There's too many people.
We just had one."
Yeah, Dwight Schrute. Man.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of like been in the back of my mind, and I've trying to been like distract myself by like more D&D, but then D&D decides to self implode and shoot itself in the foot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. I mean, so I've definitely done a lot of cursory dives into different YouTube videos and things like that, and then
that's all my YouTube feed has been, probably because I already consume a lot of D&D stuff. So
what is it? What is it?
What is it? What does this mean? The new leak from Wizards of the Coast. Like, okay, clickbait. I get it. Yes. I got it. I clicked on one or two videos. I don't need all.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. The one that I have heard recently, though, do you want to sum it up for those that haven't heard? What happened with Wizards?
So Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Mattel.
No. Hasbro.
Yes, Hasbro Games. Dang it. Oh, my gosh. All right, Hasbro Games. The people in charge of Hasbro are wanting the Wizards of the Coast people to focus more on the profit, and they're seeing the profits from D&D Beyond, which D&D Beyond is, if those who don't know what D&D Beyond, it's an online platform that has apps, but also a web browser that allows users to make their characters, keep track of their characters, like their inventory, their stats. The GM can come in and adjust things as well, and allows for homebrew and also just the rules to be in one platform.
Yeah, so it's sort of a digital interface for the tabletop RGB.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah. RPG or TTRPG.
Yes.
If you want to do it
so
that way.
It's sort of a digital edition, and
what it does is it just replaces the paper of the game.
Yeah.
For me, I don't like that. The only time I would like that is for spells, because there's a lot of words there, and I don't want to buy like spell cards and whatnot.
Yeah.
But so
that's what index cards are for, man.
Well, yeah, index cards. Yeah. Well, that's what Garrett does. He writes out custom index cards for the items and whatnot. But I mean, there's also just something about paper. It's the same thing like with a book for me.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, I can understand people doing the e-reader thing, but pen and paper or pencil and paper, there's just something about that.
The one e-reader that I actually really did like was the Kindle.
I don't think I have that Kindle anymore.
Yeah.
I had one. I didn't really use it.
No, I used that one a lot.
Yeah.
I used it for over 3 years, and then it died in the jungle for some unknown reason.
Probably humidity.
Probably.
Yeah.
They weren't really made for wet jungle
probably
weather.
Not. Well, the new ones definitely are. They're like waterproof and whatnot. Oh, so there's super simple things.
But that screen just felt and looked like paper. It was really cool.
Sidebar. I actually want to. I want to get some of those screens, and I want to put that on the back of a custom GM screen, so I can do custom paper text on my GM screen.
That would be dope.
Yeah,
that would be very dope.
And those screens are super cheap too.
Oh yeah, they were like so cheap. And then the thing that was cool about it is like you use 0 battery.
Oh yeah.
And so like that was the thing that was my favorite part about using a Kindle in the jungle is like it lasted for like 3 weeks.
I mean, Best Buy uses those for their price tags.
Yeah.
So they can constantly update the prices.
Yeah.
Which is neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, what were we saying?
We were talking about the OGL.
The OGL.
D&D Beyond.
The OGL stands for Open Game License.
Yes.
So basically what that means is that people can use the D20 system.
So that was another question that I was thinking about as well.
Right.
So like, is the D20 system that was designed by WotC and like the Wizards of the Coast games created the D20 system or no?
No, it was like Gary Gygax was the one who was the OG maker of Dungeons and Dragons, and I believe it. Like even back then, I'm not like prolifically well versed on my Dungeons and Dragons versions history, but it was a D20 system, and that D20 system has evolved over the years in various states. But the core function of it is using of the D20 for a certain stat sets.
So like if you want a really interesting history lesson on D&D, there's like an hour-long video produced by this guy called the Alexandrian, and he literally talks about the historic creation of D&D. Okay. I can find the video and I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, send me that video because I'm curious about that.
It goes from like 73 like, so Gary Gygax wasn't actually the creator of D&D.
Well.
It was a friend of his that created it, and I can't remember that guy's name.
So it's a Apple sort of origin story.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it has just as much backstabbing as you'd think.
Oh no!
Even back then.
Oh,
and I was just like, what? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going back to like.
So it was a Steve Jobs and something Wozniak.
Wozniak.
I was close.
Steve Wozniak.
Steve Wozniak. Yeah.
Jobs being the salesman, Wozniak being the actual
brain. Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's one of those things where it was like just interesting to see like the evolution of how that came about, because it all started with D6s because that's all they had.
Right.
And so at some point the D20 system came into play, but I just was curious if it was something that was actually created by...
Yeah, I believe the D20 system was created by Wizards of the Coast. Don't necessarily quote me on that, but I'm 90% sure because that's what the OGL was like. Yeah. A lot of systems are based around D20s.
Yes. Yeah. And so like that's the part that kind of makes me wonder. It's like, okay, so like if D&D, WotC, I'm saying it shorter, like
Wizards of the Coast equals WotC.
If they actually are the ones that have the rights to that D20 system, then that's going to mess a lot of things up. But if they don't actually have the rights, like if D20 itself is an open system, then that's going to be a little bit more manageable in my mind for people that just decide like, no, we're going to do our own thing because you don't actually own the rights to D20.
Well, but I mean, the other thing with copyright is like things only need to be like 10% different in order to bypass copyright.
And so like, the more that I've looked into it, so why don't you explain what's happened with WotC and what they've tried to do? Like it kind of like led up to it that yes, Hasbro has come in with their people.
Well, their corporate heads are be like, "Hey, we need profit,"
and specifically like using the words that it is like in what did they? I'm trying to remember the word that was the unmined source of revenue. It was
right.
It was like
Untapped.
Untapped revenue
Mm-hmm.
ability
Revenue sources
in the D&D world, and that's me looking like seeing someone say that, and I'm thinking like, do you realize how expensive your books are?
Yeah, you
and
guys
how
are
many
asking
books
like,
I buy?
yeah. Those books are expensive.
No, they're not cheap books.
No, they're not cheap books, and especially like your collector's packs and whatnot. Good God Almighty, no, you guys are crazy.
Well, but it just makes me think of like, okay, so how are you going to make your game more profitable? And it's literally going to end up being something where it's like, we charge you a penny for every time you're online with D&D Beyond.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, well, they would just move everything. I imagine they would move everything to subscription and just have no physical books. It would just all be digital.
It would all be digital.
And if that's the case, like, nope.
Yeah.
I will just not play D&D.
Well, yeah. And so the thing that has, I mean, I'm actually at the point where I'm like, I'm willing to look for another alternative to D&D as well.
There's lots of them. I can give recommendations.
I mean, the one that has my eye currently is Pathfinder.
Pathfinder is a little more complicated, but so actually, the great way to summarize Pathfinder versus Dungeons and Dragons, D&D or Pathfinder, you have a rules question, you find it in the book.
Yes.
D&D, you have a rules question, the GM decides.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Pathfinder, they figured it like it's a textbook, like a big textbook.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. So the reason that people are freaking out is the leak of the OGL that has been in place for the last 23 years since 2000. What the Open Gaming License did is it was sort of it was literally written, precedent that Wizards of the Coast said that, hey, you can use the D20 structure and this kind of basic system of tabletop role-playing game to create
your
third-party content and publish it. And you can do that under the Open Gaming License, so that it's a format that gives you a skeleton that you can build whatever you want to off of.
Yeah.
I think Wizards of the Coast really underestimates how much that actually propelled them as being the kind of unspoken leader of the tabletop gaming community.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it was an easily accessible system that you could understand and people could access, but then they could also build their own content on top of. It made D&D sort of the kind of, unspoken, unrecognized monopoly in that world.
Well, yeah, to build off of that. So, I mean, D&D 5e at the very least is so accessible that they even have a very basic how to play free on their website. It's in a PDF, and it's just a very basic how do you play this game, just like a core structure of how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, so like you're wanting to run like I don't know, some sort of cyberpunk fantasy world, but you want to use the 5e system because it's a simple system. You do some googling. Oh, there's a Kickstarter going on for X whatever, or some dude on Reddit spent half of his life working on this story, this cyberpunk story.
Yeah, people have built all sorts of stuff using,
and they keep doing it too. I think the reason why the Hasbro, the Hasbro people. I just owned a lot of Mattel toys as a kid, okay?
We all
Hasbro. The reason why Hasbro, I think, or at least those guys are saying that there's untapped profit is because they're looking at all these Kickstarters. Like there's if you look on Kickstarter or GoFundMe or Give Send Go, usually just Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Like inevitably, like in between 1 or 5 on the top of the page is something to do of D&D. Yeah, D&D 5e or something along those lines. Just because it's super popular right now.
Right. Yeah. I think so. The thing that has leaked is that they're changing the Open Gaming License, and what they're doing is that essentially, this is again just kind of a summary of what the leak had in it, was that the changes to the Open Gaming License would essentially allow for Wizards of the Coast to at will determine whether or not someone does or does not have access to the gaming license.
So that they can just literally go to anybody or any page and be like, nope, that's ours.
or just
and they can. Well, it's a copyright infringement tool by them to use against other people.
Yes. So then the other thing that had a lot of people kind of up in arms was the 25% royalty that was on top of any profit over $750,000.
Unless you're on Kickstarter, then it's 20%.
Then it's 20% if it was on Kickstarter. But this is written into the agreement. They have the right in their agreement to change that monetary value at will. Mm-hmm. So it could start off as $750,000. They only go above that, but then 2 weeks later or 30 within 30 days notice they can change the whole agreement, and means that it could be anything from it could go from 750,000 down to 20,000 or 5,000. That anything above that is going to become the royalty threshold. Mm-hmm. So it's like the fact that is just completely, ridiculous too.
Well, I mean,
it is a very one-sided.
It is,
and
and the good news is at least that literally everybody is. At least I haven't heard anything from Critical Role people, but that's probably because they get a lot of money from Wizards of the Coast.
So this is something that I think is actually interesting. I don't know if you've been following the third campaign.
I've been, watching it.
I don't know too much about it. I just know kind of drips and drabs and little details. Mm-hmm. But my understanding, as it's been explained to me, is that the only thing that's really kind of left in the Critical Role world is some of the patron deity characters. Everything else is homebrewed from Matt Mercer and company. They've all kind of created their own stuff that they're playing. And the current campaign arc, at least as someone described it to me, is like there's a threat to killing off all of the deities.
Yep.
And if that happens...
Spoiler alert, by the way. Massive spoiler alert. That was just revealed in the last episode.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
So big spoiler.
I'm sorry.
That's a big spoiler.
I mean, but if you're setting that up...
Yeah.
If that's the only thing that's tying you to the D&D world...
They beat them before that happens, but yes.
But if that's the only thing that's actually tying you to anything related to the WotC and the D&D world in terms of copyright, and you actually just kill all of them off, now you're in your own thing.
Yeah. Well, I will say, kind of. So he actually used not Selune. Who is Pike's patron?
Saren Ray.
Saren Ray. That is a Pathfinder god.
Yes. Yeah.
But Saren Ray was a god in 2e or 3.5e. Mm-hmm. And Dawnfather is also 5e, but Raven Queen, that's in 5e, but also was in previous generations as well. Yes. Matt just took that and did something else with it.
Yeah.
Using the OGL as everybody else does.
Yeah. Well,
but I will say I don't.
But even like the name name Vecna.
Yeah.
Like you see how they haven't had the rights to use that name in the Vox Machina show. They've only referred to him as the Whispered One.
Well, so far. I mean, they did reference the Vecna as the Whispered One for like a while before the threat happened.
It's not been in the animated show.
I know it's not been in the animated show yet, but they just got over the Briarwood arc.
So, but then there's other things that I've picked up on. So, like, Scanlan uses Big B's hand in Critical Role. In the animated show, it's Scanlan's hand.
Well, yeah.
And so I think that those are the things that are kind of like they're having to kind of differentiate a little bit more. So that they're not actually stepping on WotC's toes on that regard, and
that's possible.
So, I would actually say that if and from the multiple YouTube videos, apparently Matt Mercer has liked a tweet that was critical of the OGL.
Well, they probably want to tread lightly because like D&D Beyond is a big that's what they advertise every single stream.
It's a big supporter of theirs.
It's a big it's a big financial support, and I totally understand they also have to have a business and whatnot, and they don't want to step on too many toes. But other creators like Griffin's Saddlebag is a big one.
But even Critical Role's got their own stuff like Darrington Press uses the OGL.
Well, because they released the Tal'Dorei
Tal'Dorei campaign setting.
Yeah, campaign setting reborn. Great book, by the way.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
So the fact that that goes for basically every one of their,
that's everything right
everybody's bread and butter on that side.
now.
So I think that it's going to actually end up biting WotC in the butt.
Oh, no, for sure.
I
Like
mean,
if suddenly the biggest D&D show stops
changes.
using D&D and goes like Pathfinder,
Or
you know how much it's going to hurt them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like
And,
that,
but I mean, I think that's like, I mean, at a certain point that would
realistically speaking, they're not stupid. They're just
Yeah.
going to go to Critical Role people and say, you can use our stuff, no fees attached, no anything. Just keep advertising D&D Beyond and do all that.
But at that point, like,
ethically, that's on them to say, like, no, screw you guys.
You would hope that they would actually have a little bit more of a backbone to be like, yeah, exactly.
Fingers crossed on that one.
to not actually do that. Just be like, yeah, no, you already.
Well, I mean,
you've already made this bed.
Well, I mean,
Roll
you
for
just
initiative.
need to. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I mean, so Travis Willingham is the CEO of Critical Role, or whatever like their actual like company name is. Yeah. So I mean, it is collectively theirs, but
correct.
Like Travis is like the figurehead.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it's all something that could be very interesting to see how it plays out, but just from and again, sorry if that was a major spoiler.
It was a very major spoiler.
I mean, I knew about it.
No one because you watched a video, but didn't he say, "Hey, spoilers ahead"?
No.
Oh,
no,
well,
no video.
That's bad on him. Then that's bad on him.
Yeah, I thought it was something that was like
Nope. I'm sorry. That was that was announced like the last episode, not yesterday's episode, but the episode before that. It was kind of mentioned. It was kind of Anyway, with all Rudis and such, which is a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was like, as they were getting closer through the campaign, I was like, oh, Matt's going to destroy the world and start over.
Yeah,
because he's on his second to last continent of Exandria.
Yeah,
the next one's Wildmount. Or not Wildmount. It's got Vasselheim on it. Vasselheim is not the continent.
No,
it's like Sealis or something like that.
I don't.
Starts with an S.
I don't know all of it well enough.
But anyway,
yeah,
it'd be an interesting way to be like the world ends.
But again, that gives them the freedom to
do another thing
for campaign 4 or whatever they end up doing. It's just like we're abandoning this ship that's on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Or the ships that's sinking that the big heads have drilled through the bottom, thinking, oh, this will be a good profit. We'll get some wood shavings.
Yes,
no,
yeah.
Well, what my biggest issue is with this whole thing. Wizards of the Coast has not released a single good book like
in a while,
in years, dude.
So the official products that Wizards has released like recently are all just re-releases. Yeah,
well, they're re-release like the Dragonlance thing. That's a re-release, and it's also based off of a bloody video game.
Yes, yeah, and so then, but even like. So Waterdeep was like what 2017, 2018?
I'm actually curious when everything was released.
And then Strahd is like another old concept.
Yeah, Strahd is like really old. That's like 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, so Curse of Strahd was released in 2016.
Mm-hmm. But you're right. It was like just again a revamped.
No, it was just It even says in the front this is a revamped version of 1980s whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. The last couple books was Dragon. The most recent is Dragonlance: Shadow of the Dragon Queen.
See, but that's also combining two.
Yeah.
Books that have already existed.
It's in a different world, so it's not Rise of Tiamat and whatnot. Tiamat is in the Faerun.
Yeah, okay.
Dragonlance is in a completely different world.
I gotcha.
And then there's the Spelljammer storylines, which
that stuff is wild.
I mean, it's wild, but it's just like that it's a little out there.
Yeah.
They have a new starter set from Dragons of Stormwreck Isle.
Yep.
And then there's Crit Roll called the Netherdeep, which I haven't heard anything good about that. And then there's the Strixhaven, which everybody hates. The only cool thing that came out of that was the Owlin, which is the Aarakocra owl race. Then there was the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I didn't hear anything about that. Like there's no hubbub.
Yeah. So the last
Candlekeep Mysteries. That one was controversial because that one was the one that really pushed the non-binary and all of the different genders and whatnot, and disabled PCs. Like making a dungeon. It was advertised as the first dungeon that was wheelchair accessible. It was just like,
oh jeez. Oh my god.
What? I'm going to make this dungeon that will kill any adventurer who comes in here, but it's all wheelchair accessible. I can't.
That does sound.
Got to be up to code.
That does sound like something Hallister would do.
Oh, that would be. I have the perfect idea. I'm going to make a wheelchair accessible dungeon just so I can kill them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then Icewind Dale. That was the last one that was big. That was big and good. Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Yeah,
that was the last good one, and that was 2020.
Okay, so it's been 2 years.
And you know what? Here's the other thing. There's not been a new class released since Tasha's Cauldron to Everything, where it was the Artificer. There's not been a new class, and they have been having the Mystic class on Unearthed Arcana ever since the inception of 5th edition. I think original 5th edition had the Mystic put in, but it was way too overpowered.
Yeah, so they had to nerf it.
They just got rid of it. They just took it out.
Gotcha.
So now it's just Unearthed Arcana, but they haven't done anything with that. It's just like we have all these classes and we have all these subclasses. Tasha's Cauldron to Everything was the last like good supplement book next to probably Mordenkainen's
Tome of
Foes. Yeah, it's the newest one that revamped a lot of stuff. That was a good supplement book too. But Tasha's was the one that introduced a lot of new rules and other supplements, which also included the sidekick class, which is good for if you want to make strong NPCs that your players will have.
Yeah.
So, but it also included Artificer.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a new thing like that for years, and there's so many things out there that a lot of people
have already been homebrewing.
And making new classes and whatnot. You know what? Actually, now I'm thinking about it, the one thing that's going to be really hurt is Star Wars 5th edition.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of a big project that's from a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's 5th edition based.
But it's on Star Wars.
But it's on Star Wars, and they actually completely redid the magic system.
Interesting.
To where there's Force casters and there's tech casters.
Yeah. So the 5th edition,
you play,
I played a little bit of that.
For the work game.
Yeah, the Bad Batch game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an interesting adaptation of the 5e system for sure. I think that was that published under like the OGL as well? Yeah,
I think it is published on the OGL.
See, and that's the kind of thing. It's like there's so much stuff that people have created content wise that's using the OGL.
I mean, I have a book right back there. It's
yeah, it's fine. It's something. You're gonna go look for it. That book.
It is the Seeker's Guide to Twisted Taverns.
Okay, just kicking the mics.
Adjust this microphone. I'll just make a shitload of noise.
Sorry for everybody's ears.
Sorry about that. This is the one microphone that's not clamped to the table. Anyway,
thank you for the clamp,
the Seeker's Guide to Twisted Taverns. And if you ever watch Campaign 2, you see Sam Riegel make a very disgusting drink.
Oh yeah,
from the Eldermancy. But this book does use the OGL, and I'm curious if it says anything about that, which is why I grabbed it. Oh yeah, ownership and copyright. This product is compliant with the Open Game License and is suitable for use with the 5th edition rule system, product identity. Following items are hereby identified as product identity and is defined by the Open Game License version 1.0a, section IE.
And that has been in place for 23 years. So there's been a huge rip of content that has been produced for this 5e system.
This alone is, oh my gosh. It actually has a copy of the Open Game License in the back.
Yeah, it's all there, and it's one of those things that's been around for
copyright 2000.
Yeah, literally decades.
Yeah, 23 years.
And there's been multiple people that literally are making a living using this open gaming license by publishing content, putting out magazines, putting out about new things for this truly like beloved game.
And beloved.
WotC is coming at it because they, feel like they're getting gypped off of not getting enough money.
Well, I don't even know if it's WotC necessarily. It's just those, financial figureheads.
It's definitely something. So yeah, we'll see what kind of shakes out from this, but
which also doesn't bode well for what I'm wanting to do with, a D&D show.
So that is different from my understanding.
Okay.
It's under a completely different thing.
Actually, I just remembered there was something I just pulled up something about the OGL. Go ahead and say,
if I'm like so things like shows like Critical Role, like the fact that they're playing D&D and broadcasting it, I don't think that actually has any relation to the OGL.
I would be concerned because if you're doing your own setting and you're not doing, if you're doing like your own setting and whatnot, you're going to be using all the same spells. You're going to be using all of the same weapons, and possibly items, but you're just going to be doing a different setting, different characters, and even you'll throw in some homebrew. I mean, like Blood Hunter, that was homebrewed by Matt Mercer, homebrewed class.
Yeah. So that whole section is an entirely different realm of legality that I don't know if it is subject to a different license or if it's still considered to be something under the OGL, but I don't think it is because the OGL has to do literally with published written materials from my understanding. But there might be something else to, there's multiple D&D shows.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that, they're just posting them playing a game. And so that has, different ramifications potentially that would be good to know and look into. But I don't think that you can be, cease and desist from mentioning, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And
well, I would hope not, unless they really want to go the full Disney route.
Yeah.
So just there's just like a little quick point by point.
And is this the current OGL, the 1.0?
This is the 2.0.
Yeah.
So this is the new OGL. Renders Kickstarters infeasible. For reference, if Wizard has to pay this much for revenue, they'd be bankrupt too. Yes. Which is the 25%.
Yeah.
Disallows virtual tabletop content.
Yep.
On platforms like Foundry, which is what I use.
Yes.
Alchemy, which is a huge portion of the TTRPG community. OGL 2.0 enables Wizards is forcing monopolistic stranglehold or the future of online tabletop. Like, that's actually a big deal. Like if they're trying to do a TTRP, online version of that with D&D 1, that would be neat. But the whole point of like Foundry or even Roll20, Roll20, the whole point of that was it was open source, so you can use any system. So it's just like, okay, do you really want to take your system off of these guys? Like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
There's going to be other systems that are just
people will just go to Pathfinder. They'll go to Castles and Crusades and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's the other big ones. Castles, it's like D&D, Pathfinder, Castles and Crusades.
Yeah.
And then probably below there's like GURPS or Fate. It's not an open license by definition. Open means open, legally allowing others to freely build with, customize, or improve the work without cost and minimal restrictions and modifications. Forces creators into a one-sided contract.
Yep.
Just to make the content they were already planning to make under the 1.0, they can't benefit from the grace period without agreeing to the 2.0.
Yes.
Claims that large companies are the reason for these changes.
Yeah.
Despite that, no company has taken money or even threatened remotely overshadowing them by using D&D open IP, not their protected IP. So now even Pathfinder, who's now so far removed from the original material, is minuscule compared to the massive scale of Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
And Pathfinder has Pathfinder, Starfinder, and I think one other one.
So
it's big.
Paizo is the publishing company for Pathfinder, and they in the last couple of days announced if you're going to get rid of the open gaming license, we're going to do one. And so Paizo is working on with the original lawyer who wrote the original 1.0A framework for the open gaming license for WotC. Paizo's reached out to him to actually create another open
Yeah, I mean good on Pathfinder for taking up that that torch and mantle. Be like, you guys aren't going to do it. All right, we will.
I can't remember what they actually called it, but it was like Open RC, something like that. So the acronym is ORC.
Oh, ORC. Okay, that's great. Okay,
yeah.
I might buy a Pathfinder book just for that one.
Yeah. I was like, that's honestly that's why I've been so interested in Pathfinder. Just hearing that they've already kind of been like, well, we'll do it.
Yeah,
and just stepping up because I think
what I like that. I like that a lot too.
Yeah.
Turns issued openness into an opportunity for wizards to divide and conquer. The company that makes $1.3 billion a year and is vilifying companies that make $750,000, the equivalent of what they make at 5.5 hours.
Yeah. The 750,000 mark is really going to take a chunk out of places like Darrington Press.
Oh, yeah.
Paizo, Pathfinder.
Anybody on Kickstarter.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I guess it just depends upon there's like small groups that publish and do like magazines or monthlies. So those are maybe less. But they still are needing to pay for publishing costs. They're paying for art.
Yeah.
There's a lot that is wrong about this.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that the Lord of the Rings roleplay system will be hit hard. Will be hit even though they're using Tolkien.
Yeah.
And Tolkien is like very closed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious to see. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So Knights of the Republic, my favorite role-playing game, uses a D20 system in digitized, and it uses the OGL.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney, who now owns Star Wars, Wizards of the Coast will have to sue Disney.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That will be so much fun.
What I'm thinking of is the first Godzilla movie where Godzilla was fighting all this other stuff. Let them fight.
Let them fight. Yes, exactly. Let them fight. Oh, I love those movies.
Oh man, yeah. It's one of those things where it's just like the more like
apparently
I have not seen one single other side of this saying like, hey guys, it's not as bad as you think,
Well, it's not as bad as you think. Well, that's probably because they're getting paid by Wizards of the Coast. But you know how many people are quitting and canceling their D&D Beyond subscription?
Oh, I'm sure.
Apparently, there was like an email or memo going out that was like they may have intentionally leaked it to see the response.
Yeah.
And they're basing it off of how many people quit their D&D Beyond subscription. Be like, that's a weird way to do. You could just do a survey
and just see like, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah, what do you think of this?
We hate it.
Yeah, we despise this.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Yeah. Don't do it. Or like either you put out a survey, or you just do it.
Yeah. I mean,
which is why I was like, I don't know if it was intentionally leaked. I don't know about that.
No, I actually think that it might have been a legitimate leak from someone within Wizards that's just like, guys, this is wrong.
Oh, I would do that 100%. I'd be like, oh yeah. No, this will be interesting. This would be really interesting. Turn around the office, send.
Yeah, right. It's like, this cannot get back to me.
Yeah, no, this way you just open up like 30 Proton Mail accounts and just disseminate.
There you go. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see how it all kind of like shakes out.
It's funny. I wonder if that will be affected.
So this is not a D20 system.
No, it's
a different type of.
It's a completely different system. Oh no, it doesn't use D. Those are D12s.
And so it's not based upon like a roll versus a character's AC. It's a roll versus a roll. Mm-hmm. And so that's a different system.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that kind of.
Well, we were pointing out, but for the people because we don't have actually cameras.
Yeah.
Not yet, maybe.
Not yet. Yeah.
I was pointing at the dice for Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars: Edge of the Empire, or just Star Wars RPG system.
So I'm
not a fan.
Yeah, the Star Wars Legion and those kinds of systems, like I've got to have like my first exposure to it within like this last week, and it's a very different kind of rolling versus roll.
Well, it's not really like dice. It's sorry, it's not your dice in the traditional sense where it's numeric value.
No,
it's like
there's-
what symbols do you roll?
Exactly, and so
Which is kind of which is related to the RPG system.
RPG
Only
system
that
as well.
it's a little different.
Yeah, and so like I think that I'd say it like the Legion system is a little more simplified version of
It is because it's just like the attacker just rolls for what they get, and it'd be like hit, critical, does a critical, and induce a critical hit or just a regular hit.
Yeah,
and then there's like accuracy that you can, at least for Armada, you get accuracy to disable another person's ability or something like that, and other cards that you can build upon.
Yeah, and the same thing for Legion. It's the same kind of roll versus roll concept. So that would be an interesting system.
It's funny
if someone decides to kind of pioneer that being the system. I don't necessarily like it, but I mean, if you're really serious about it, you need to figure out a new way to remake the wheel.
No, well, yeah.
And maybe it's just a D21.
D21, oh god. I mean, maybe. Or it'd be like Call of Cthulhu, 2D10s.
Yeah, and that would be pretty straightforward.
Or GURPS, which is D6s. I don't like GURPS. It's too it's as weird as it is. It's too open of a system.
I'm open to like different dice roll systems as long as it makes sense and I can understand it. So
the Fantasy Flights.
So the way that
makes sense.
The way that I was like reading like Pathfinder's system is there's definitely some differences, obviously, but a lot of the structure is actually very similar to the strength, dex, those
the
kinds
characteristics,
those kinds of things. But as you go up in level, it's XP is the same per level. So it's a little bit more of a linear advancement rather than kind of like that weird table or plateau that you can get sometimes in D&D.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that is interesting about Pathfinder is this concept. It still has the same kind of 4 options for a skill check. Whether it can be a failure, critical failure, success, critical success. It still has those.
Yeah.
But the way those are determined, rather than just with a nat 1 or a nat 20, as in the 5e system, which determines success or critical success or critical failure, the way that Pathfinder determines it is if you exceed the AC check or the DC check by 10, it's considered a critical.
Yeah. I actually thought about implementing that in 5e as well.
I mean, then
because I wanted to diversify the advantage, disadvantage in that and critical hits and whatnot. It's just like it becomes, I mean, it's great, but it becomes monotonous and becomes really boring to be like, do I get advantage? Yeah. Okay. You roll 2 D20s.
Yeah.
Rather than like a +5 or +10, depending.
Yeah. And so it just kind of, it's a little bit, just a different take on the role. And I think that it has, some advantages, obviously.
Yeah. I still, every time I go to like a Barnes and Noble or a game store, I'm always on the prowl for a Pathfinder rulebook that's hardback. I know they sell the softback, but I don't like softbacks. I want hardback.
Something solid.
Yeah. I'm just weird like that.
For those kinds of books, it makes sense because you want them to hold up because you're going to be using them a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Though the book, the softback Pathfinder book is actually pretty well put together.
You just prefer the hardback?
I just prefer the hardback because it looks better on a shelf.
Yeah, true. I believe it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I got this edition of Twisted Taverns because it's like a nice pleather and gold trim sort of
thing.
Book, yeah. And the spine looks pretty neat.
Yeah, that is very nice.
Yeah. Very nice.
Very Beetle the Bard-esque.
Sidebar, did I show you the Curse of Strahd thing I got?
It looks cool. I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you the stuff on the inside.
Oh,
it's even cooler.
That'll be fun.
You should see how they did where they put Strahd's stat block.
Oh gosh,
it's really cool.
I'll have to check.
It's neat. I shouldn't say it's really cool. It's neat.
It's neat.
It's neat.
It's neat.
That's
fun.
So, yeah, that's the OGL. My thoughts on it: it's BS. I don't think they're going to go through with it. I don't think they're going to go through with this because so many people. There's so much outcry. It's the number one thing on YouTube right now that people are talking about. It's only a matter of time before Critical Role makes a statement on it because literally everybody else has.
Yeah.
I just don't see that lasting. Like with the amount of people that are quitting, beyond D&D Beyond, which was the whole point of this,
is to try to get more people on D&D Beyond.
And D&D Beyond to use their digital platform so they can just have that subscription model. They probably have too many people who in the corporate setting who are like, yeah, subscription models. That's the new way to make a profit in this new century.
So many subscription-based things. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I saw an ad recently for a thing called cable. Now, that came out as a joke.
Yes, it did.
But the company was, you pay a flat fee and you get access to all the subscriptions.
It's so silly.
And they called it cable.
That's.
I feel now that I'm really thinking about it, that might have just been a joke.
Yeah, I mean,
but I saw there was a little advertisement. I was perusing Twitter, doom scrolling it, and I saw a little ad for cable. I was like, huh, $90 instead of $120 for all subscriptions? Like, I don't know how that's gonna work. Might be a movie pass situation there.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, it's just cable television.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh
Gross.
Man. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it's gone, is like everybody's sort of taking their own time to make a streaming service. I mean, how many people are on Peacock legitimately? Like,
not very many.
I mean,
I know 2 people who have Peacock,
and like the one,
or even Paramount Plus also.
Yeah, I mean, like those kinds of like services, like maybe if there was some way that you're using that to watch live sports. Maybe,
but Disney Plus has ESPN.
I know.
What else would you need? Well, Hulu, but
yeah.
Disney's basically owns Hulu too. So
there's different agreements between like what games you can watch on which network. So dumb. And so like that's the part where it's like you're watching one network versus another network.
That's
for whatever games
that's so bloody annoying.
Yeah, that's complicated and why I never really got into live sports too much.
Yeah,
because it's like, wait, which channel is it on? I don't care.
I don't feel like having to go through a guidebook just to figure out that. I'd rather use a guidebook for
the coolest thing that came out of the NFL for me when I was actually paying attention to the NFL was Red Zone. Are you familiar with what Red Zone was?
Nope.
So NFL Red Zone was really fun to watch, and it was only on Sundays. And essentially what it was is that they would actually be playing every game whenever they got within 10 yards of an end zone. So they're in the red zone. Oh. And so there would be times where, depending upon how many games were going on, it's like, we're cutting into this game, and now we're cutting, split screen, 2 games at the same time. So you get to watch like all the games that were currently playing.
Oh, jeez.
And whenever they were getting to the red zone, you basically saw every touchdown. And that was the thing that was kind of cool about Red Zone.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So Red Zone was fun, and there'd be literally times where it's like quad box, where you're watching 4 games at once because they're all in, like, you're ready to score.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's intense, but it was and you just had one guy that was announcing everything.
Oh really?
So
gee, that dude's job is that's tough.
He made it work. But yeah, Red Zone was entertaining. Just
dang.
And again, when you're playing fantasy football, you're not actually focused on one game. You're focused on every game.
Every single game.
So that was probably my favorite thing that I ever saw when it came to like live sports was Red Zone. But that was a subscription.
I never saw any of that stuff. Oh, is it a subscription?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Or it was actually a cable channel, but it was like HBO kind of like
gotcha.
Like that pay cable kind of channel.
Right.
Yep.
Huh, neat. Well, I don't have anything even close to that because I care so little about sports. I got nothing.
I'm watching Campaign 1 on one screen and Campaign 2 on another screen.
Oh, gosh.
Split screen. Yeah.
Jeez, that would be impossible.
Trying to keep track of the narrative. I've lost the thread.
Wait, is it Yasha or is it Pike? Oh, God.
Yeah,
Jeez.
That would get confusing.
Oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on with the OGL, and I'm sure we've made it clear as mud.
Yeah, definitely clear as mud.
But man, what do you think is like? I think like the move that would definitely seal this is if the Critical Role and company just decided to be like, no.
Yeah.
And actually,
that would be like,
and actually kind of pioneered their own system.
Well, for one, we might be putting a little too much credence behind Critical Role, but on the other hand, they are the largest streaming platform, and
for D&D,
which is interesting. There's less than 2 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yes,
but they have a high, recurrent watching on Twitch and whatnot.
Yeah, and
their episode, like even Campaign 2 episodes, each episode almost reaches 2 million views per video, which was the archive of the stream.
Yeah. So
it's not like it's a small channel.
Yeah.
By any means,
like,
but
people are definitely.
It's not like as big as like other YouTubers, but still, like their voice has a lot of weight behind it.
People are definitely consuming their content for sure.
No, no.
So,
but yes, I think one at least at the very most. The final nail in the coffin, or at the very least, a big nail in the coffin of this OGL stuff is for Critical Role to come out like even before they do a game, or just do like a special stream and just be like,
say what they think about it.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, as you mentioned, though, also if there has already been some kind of deal with the Critical Role company.
I think it's entirely possible
that they already actually have some sort of, and not like it's like a sweetheart deal or anything. It's just they've already established some sort of
boundary
agreement and boundary for what they're doing.
But even if they did that,
that
well, assuming they did it beforehand, it would be with the 1.0 OGL.
Yeah.
But with the 2.0 OGL, they would have to go back into negotiations.
So
unless this has been in the works and they got to them ahead of time.
Sure, but and also that's why I'm saying is that maybe whatever they're operating under is not even remoted or at all similar to the OGL. Like they've had their own private agreement with WotC for however long,
right?
To do what they want to do.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So, I mean, it might have been structured on the OGL. I'd be curious. I'd actually want to go see if I can find some of the copies of the Tal'Dorei campaign setting and see how it was published. If it was published under the OGL or not.
I can look that up right now, actually.
Because if it was, then that kind of answers some of that question.
The Reborn one?
Yeah, you'd want the Reborn one because the original Tal'Dorei campaign setting was published under Green Ronin, and the Green Ronin definitely used the OGL to first publish it, but the one from Darrington Press is the most recent one. I just don't know where that one was published.
They published it on Darrington Press,
or whether that was published under the OGL or if that was published under something else.
I'm gonna see if they have that page maybe on 5e Tools. I doubt it, but
I doubt it.
Might as well check.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I have it under my managed homebrew on here.
But that's kind of the biggest thing that has happened in the last week was people freaking out over that.
Yes. Oh well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then I don't know. We briefly noodled on.
They have to do the 5. They have to say under the OGL because book uses 5th edition rules.
Yeah. Okay. So that would definitely affect them as well. But that's the other part of the new OGL that just seems totally reprehensible to me is that if WotC decides that they actually like someone's content, they can just yoink it and repurpose it and republish it as official,
as their own,
like their own official stuff. And then, if they wanted to be, vicious, they could just ban that person from being able to use the current OGL after they yoink their material.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually just pulled it up on a PDF, so let me see.
There you go.
Oops, sorry, bumped the microphone again. Look at me go.
All over the place. It's probably just on that first page says something about the OGL.
Let's see, credits. Writing, managing, producers, digital.
Nothing.
Special thanks, playtesters, crit roll team, first edition credits.
All of that.
Well, this is copyright Darrington Press LLC, and orders by Critical Role LLC. Okay, so Crit Role is LLC.
Yeah. So,
is there a way for me to? Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
We'll just go all the way down to the last page, rather than have to flip through 200 pages.
Exactly.
All right, look at this a second to load.
Yeah.
But This OGL stuff is.
And the thing that was crazy, it was one of those things where I was just now just becoming aware of the amount of like third party created content that is published, and I was just starting to like find out about the OGL in my own like dive.
Have it worked?
And I was like, oh wow, this is actually really cool that you can, and then just obliterated like 3 days later.
Cool. Yeah, this is really cool. Why? What?
Nope. And it was one of those things where it's like, I had looked up and found out about the OGL, and I was like going to talk to you. I was like, dude, would you want to like work on like publishing something with this? Because this would actually be kind of cool to, do. And then no. We can't have nice things.
Nope, can't have nice things. It's kind of funny because I worked on I actually worked on a RPG system.
Yeah.
Previously, but I based it off of Call of Cthulhu system. With the D100 because I actually really like that.
What about a D50?
Oh, now we're talking. I don't know, but no, I don't think a D50 would work or anything. Like that.
I mean, even D100s are sometimes obnoxious.
Yeah, they're all D100 and whatnot is all over the place. Like a D50 is also like there's something about a D20 like you get a good
range,
and just it just works.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
I mean, it's funny that we think that there's less chance of a D20 versus a D100 when statistically it should be pretty much the same.
Well, but no, because it depends on what you have for each amount.
Yeah.
So like what ranges there within of that D100 are going to be, whereas a D20 you have these smaller modifiers.
Yes. Yeah.
So
playing with whole numbers and below 20s.
Right.
And all
Yes.
That.
Yeah. Mathematically, technically, you're correct.
Yeah.
Mathematically, in depth, context, you're wrong.
Okay. I mean, I would just assume that they do use the OGL, but but that would be again an assumption. They might not be using it.
They might not,
and that might mean that they've tied their boat to a sinking ship.
I mean, that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Let's see if this thing will load.
Yeah. But the good thing about actually being in your own ship, even if you are tied to another ship that's sinking, you can cut the rope.
That is true. Sidebar, because we were talking about Tal'Dorei setting. Did you look at the stats for the Campaign 1 players?
No.
No? You haven't looked at their stats?
No.
That's pretty cool. I'll show you.
Is it just like so crazy OP?
Oh, well, they're all level 20 characters.
Yeah,
so their CR rate. Vax is the highest CR rating.
Of course he does.
Next would be Grog.
Yeah.
And then it's Percy.
Okay.
Just because he can do like 5 attacks.
Yeah.
In a turn.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
They are. Okay. I just went to the last page. It is the open game license version 1.0. The following text is property of the Wizards of the Coast and is copyright 2000s Wizards of the Coast. Wizards, all rights reserved. And it's literally the whole
OGL.
The whole OGL. And I think. No portion of this work has been used or reproduced in any form without prior written expression permission of Critical Role LLC. So basically saying you guys can't use our stuff, or we're not going to be using your stuff as well.
Yeah.
Hang on. End of license. Addendum to the license on behalf of Critical Role LLC. So they did an addendum to the license. Let's see. All names were there and included within the work. Yep.
So they have an addendum.
They have an addendum that's saying this addendum is counter to the 2.0 thing because it's saying you can't use our stuff as much as we're not using your stuff right now. We're using what's in the open license. You cannot use any of our stuff, which is pretty neat. And actually, specifically, the copywritten is attributed to Matthew Mercer, Hannah Rose, James Jack Hick, and John. I'm not going to bother with that last name.
Okay.
But Matt Mercer, so he owns all of that information because they come from his brain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he just has the inhuman ability to make content.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's just a voice actor. So it's like.
He just dumps it all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I say that he's just a voice actor.
I mean, he's done a ton of stuff. So
he's been in a lot. He's done some live action stuff too.
Nice.
It's pretty cringe.
I'm sure. I mean, it wouldn't be Critical Role without a little bit of cringe.
Yes. I saved a part. Okay, I saved this link. We can talk about the pistol brace thing that just came out.
Oof. Yeah, we should talk about that.
I don't know if there's anything else you wish to knock around with the D&Ds.
Not really, but it's just one of those things where just like the ember and flame that I had of fun for D&D just suddenly got like a big old bucket of water tossed at it, and I just feel like, dang it.
Yeah. Well, for those that were listening, I can tell you this right now. You can find PDFs pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
Across the internet.
Yeah.
Various websites that do torrenting.
Uh-huh.
And the best way to get access to D&D books or Dungeons & Dragons books without giving D&D any money or anything like that, the number one is 5e Tools.
Yes.
And because of this licensing thing, and if they does go through and they are militant about it, 5e Tools also has mirror websites, and you can download a mirror for your personal device as well.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things that like where it's going to be a Hydra.
Yeah.
When one goes down, you got another one comes up.
Yeah.
And if you wanted another way to do it, it would be online games or online sources such as Foundry.
Yep.
Which is open license and open ended, open source. That's the word I'm looking for. Open source. So if you want to be rebellious, go to 5e Tools. Maybe download some PDFs, and don't give wizards any money. If anything, you know what you should do? You should go on eBay or something like that and buy books directly from someone who's just giving away used books. Yeah. Pass that money around laterally rather than vertically.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely is.
If you want to go the more legitimate route.
Yeah. Yeah. And not, just theft.
Oh, yeah.
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 I don't have any regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. I just spent $80 on that Curse of Strahd thing, okay?
Yeah, that thing is
actually
awesome.
50. Thanks, Amazon. But, that thing's normally $110.
I know. I've seen it. I was like, I need to look at that. That's cool.
Anyway.
So, yeah. That was so what was the pistol brace thing?
Okay, we could talk pistol brace.
Yeah, we're moving to Second Amendment inclined conversation.
Okay, so the ATF just released Joe Biden's unconstitutional pistol brace ban. Any gun ban is an unconstitutional one.
Yep.
I have to throw that out there. Any laws of infringement?
There's a little line in the Second Amendment called "shall not be infringed," and it's just it shall not.
Yeah.
Nope.
Shall not.
Shall not.
Okay, so brace that affects as many as 40 million lawfully purchased firearms.
Yeah.
So essentially, they banned it. They banned pistol braces altogether. So the SBA 3 and all of the stuff from SB Tactical are banned.
Nice.
Those are now SBRs. So so under the new a quick thing under this new rule, having a tube on your AR or a folding mechanism makes it an SBR if under 16 inches. So even if you own a 10.5-inch pistol and remove the brace, it is still a stock.
So even the bar out the back.
Yeah, the buffer tube.
The buffer tube that functions on the.
Yeah, that's a stock, buddy. You're going to have to get, unfortunately for you, according to the ATF, you're going to have to saw that off. Oh, wait, you can't because that's making a firearm, which is also illegal.
But removing the buffer tube makes it physically inoperable.
Unless you get one of those, you use the same mechanism like what the SIG MCX or the SIGs use.
Yeah.
And I think Texas Law Tactical, they made something as well for their folding main stock one that it's like a short firing system or something like that.
But that makes it an SPR if it folds.
No. Oh, yeah. No, it would because, her folding mechanism. What?
Yeah.
That is so stupid.
Yeah. ATF needs to be abolished.
I want to use stronger language, but I'm being civil.
Please do. Yeah. Be civil. Let's be civil. That was one of the things, like you can write to the ATF on their website.
I'm still waiting for my bloody suppressor.
I know, yeah.
I'm still waiting for that crap.
Yeah. The one thing though that I will tell you though is like if you do use any form of cursing or language whenever you're making comments on ATF like proposed legislation, they immediately kick it out and don't register it as an official comment.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be civil.
So
okay.
you be civil.
To whom it may concern, for the fools at the ATF who do
I would like for
the
you,
illiterate fools there.
if you would be so kind to feast upon a satchel of Richards.
Oh gosh. You know what the other thing about this thing that is BS and is unconstitutional?
What's that?
The ATF is an enforcing agency.
Yeah.
They're not a litigation agency.
Yeah.
None of this has passed Congress.
No.
You want to ban stuff.
Well, it's an executive action that they're just
But that's illegal too.
We
Executive orders are also just unconstitutional.
So I think that this is kind of like a reframing that is important in what it means for the United States and the country that we live in, is that we aren't actually a nation of laws, even though we claim to be.
Yeah.
We are a nation of political will.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's political will to enforce a rule, to enforce a law, then it will be enforced.
Great example of this is Illinois.
Yeah.
Have you seen the map of all of the counties except for like Chicago that just said, no, we're not enforcing that. And if you think you're going to enforce that here,
Yeah.
one, we're not going to help you.
Yeah.
Two, we're going to bar you as
Yeah.
best we within the legal
Yeah.
authority to do so. And three, we're going to encourage our citizens to not comply.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that we have had, on the left specifically, a lot of political will.
Yeah.
Because they are following this path, hook, line, and sinker, and they're all bought in.
Oh, yeah.
And they have they have all their ducks in a row, so to speak,
Yeah.
because they have the media support, they have their voting-based support. Like, they've got that locked down.
Oh, for sure.
On the right,
They're kings of messaging and whatnot.
on the right, I don't think we actually have as much of a cohesive group as we'd like to think we do.
No.
And
Well,
I think that it starts, unfortunately, at the top in the Republican Party.
Sorry, there was just a thing.
Yeah, in the Republican Party itself, like, I think that the leadership of the Republican Party kind of hates its base.
Well,
Obviously hates its base.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, that there needs to be some dramatic change in terms of who's actually leading the Republican Party and representing the conservative group and the conservative leanings of those that vote that way. But it also, this last election kind of reinforced for me that we don't actually have nearly the amount of people that are on a conservative bent as I would have hoped we would have.
Yeah.
But that does bring me to the House Speaker situation.
Well, I was going to say, I would get instant more respect if McCarthy, one, even says, like, no, and does something, or at least calls the ATF out or Biden out on it.
So I think,
because all that's being said right now,
Yeah.
that I can see from McCarthy is just a lot of saber rattling and nothing that it can actually do.
Well, and that's the other thing too. It's like, I have had people send me things that, there's legislation that they would abolish the IRS and income tax would go away. I'm like, okay,
that's false.
That's like, that made the rounds. Like, it got a lot of people interested, and I was like, okay, even if that were true,
it would still have to go to Joe Biden's desk.
It would also have to pass the Senate,
which the Dems own the Senate.
And and so, like, that's
it's not even a 50-50 split.
Like, to change that level of legislation, it's just like, it's got to pass both houses.
Yeah,
it's not something that the House could just
House,
unilaterally.
House, Senate, President, and even if Joe Biden kicks it back,
they don't have,
or vetoes it, they don't have supermajority.
But that's the thing about the whole kerfuffle of 15 different rounds of voting to get a Speaker of a House, and concessions made each and every time rounds were happening that pushed it to a much more conservative angle in the House. And the rules that are now abiding in the House, I mean, they got investigation of the FBI. They got these, like, on paper, like, these are going to happen.
Well, they're going to happen, but nothing's going to come of them.
Well, and that's
sorry if that's
no, but I
you know,
mean,
pessimistic.
It's
on my
more
part.
it's more than we would have gotten had this had been.
That's true.
If this had been this election had been an actual red wave, McCarthy would have had the votes and not had to give any actual concessions to people that were willing to hold the line and say, no, we want this.
Yeah.
You know, so they couldn't hide all of the slimy Republicans that just
Dan Crenshaw.
Oh gosh, yeah, like, they couldn't hide anymore the fact that like they were willing to do slimy politics.
Oh yeah,
you know, because they didn't have the majority, and the actual conservatives that were there
held the line.
Decided like, no, we want some concessions here.
And good on them.
I mean, yeah,
disappointing in Marjorie Taylor Greene. Disappointed, but you know, and even like Matt Gaetz, I'm still kind of like wishy-washy on the guy. Like I really don't know how I feel about him. Yeah,
he definitely seems in a lot of ways, at least prior to this, he seemed he struck me as just a very Trump lackey kind of Trump can do no wrong sort of individual.
Didn't he vote for it? Didn't he say Trump?
He did, but the thing that's interesting is that Trump was actually calling him to say, like, look, no, you need to stop.
Yeah.
We need to vote for McCarthy. And he wouldn't. He kept pushing for stuff. And I just am like, okay, that's actually a little more interesting.
You know, it's funny. MTG held the phone with Trump on the line.
Yeah.
It's just like, no. It's like, hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, like, that's the kind of stuff where you see that and it's like, I would actually love for Donald Trump to lose his stranglehold that he currently has on the Republican Party.
His stranglehold is slipping, I feel.
And I think it's like it.
Not only did he not only because he announced way too early.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things where people are looking at DeSantis and really like side eye looking at him for 2024, legitimately.
No, yeah.
And I think that the Florida grand jury investigation into vaccines is going to be a really interesting unfolding to see what actually comes out of that.
Yeah. Because
like they at a state level have actually pushed for that kind of investigation into the what's actually going on with this. They've already they're the only state in the union that says do not give this to minors.
Yeah.
Currently, like they're currently the only state.
Well, once the polls come out, maybe Greg Abbott will consider it.
Maybe. No, he'll be in the wheelchair accessible dungeon.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah,
that's funny.
He would be too busy fighting off.
Goblins.
Yes.
Like, stop.
Get away. Would you be considered prone if you're? Never mind.
Oh man, that's actually a good point. Would you be?
Oh no, partially prone.
I would say you're knocked prone. I mean, you'd be a bigger target.
Be an increase to AC.
Oh no, that would be just have advantage.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that'll be interesting to see what comes out on that. But again, like this whole
pistol brace ban,
the pistol brace brand,
yeah. And Illinois is banning guns outright.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I mean, I'm not surprised. What is it like? Every mother that said it's like I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed. Yeah. Well, it's always funny. It's just like, why do do people not put two and two together? The crap that's coming out of laws. You need to look at where their capital is. Look at Chicago.
Yeah.
Look how crime and gun-ridden that is, and they want to ban guns across the whole state. Whatever.
Well, and like they have,
how that failed.
Some of the most restrictive gun laws in the nation, I think, are in places like New York City, Chicago,
New York, Chicago, New Jersey, California, and Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and a couple of those.
Yeah,
but the most restrictive are Illinois,
and it's one of those,
California,
and it's
New
one
Jersey.
And it's one of those things where it's like when you talk about gun violence, and the statistics, it's like if you start taking out those major population centers, and removing them, like the numbers are actually going way down for rural and those kinds of places. So it means that there's something in the urban centers that is the real issue.
Societal.
Yeah.
It's societal issues.
Yeah. I'm open to the concept of, I think it kind of like also gets into like the stupid gas stove thing.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like we're talking about something that's just so ridiculous. Like
it's so innocuous, but I mean, it's still an overreach. It's still a governmental overreach.
And so that's where it's going to become like the serious question is like, what does the government have the right to do to you? Where does what I mean, that's always the question of what is the actual rightful boundary for government, and can the government prevent you from doing something that's harmful to you? So,
I mean, well, my initial answer to that is whatever the government can get away with.
Exactly.
That's what their right to do
and
is.
That's in practical sense.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like, you know, if we're actually taking it to a more, you know, principle-based question.
Well, I mean, but
not like practicalities.
Well, no,
like,
I don't know if that's necessarily just practicality. Like, I mean, it's also societal because, like, what will society enforce?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what will they demand be enforced? And the society of those big cities is, you know, gun bans that don't work.
Yeah.
But that's the you know, that's the horse that they hooked their cart to, and even though it's lethargic and crapping on them, they still keep, you know, hooking their wagon to that horse.
Yeah. And like I'm just reminded of a video. I don't actually know where it was from, but it was one of those, I'm guessing it wasn't actually in the United States, but it's one of those things where it was a woman who had pulled her vehicle out of a driveway and had passed like an iron gate and was out of her vehicle, was closing the iron gate, but her situational awareness, she must know where she is and where she lives, you know, that kind of thing. So she's like a very, you know, she's
very aware.
She's very, very aware. As she's like closing the gate behind her, she like looks down the street, looking both sides, and like sees a van come pull up, and like two dudes open the door, and one jumps out and rushes at her, and she immediately unholsters and just starts firing at them, and the guys all freak out and run away.
Yeah, that was probably like Brazil.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know exactly.
That's usually where those sort of things come out
but
from.
It's one of those things where it's just like, that situation, whatever was planned to do to that woman, was stopped because she had a firearm to defend herself.
Oh, yeah. No, if you want gender equality, you arm all females.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the great equalizer. Just
and
don't give guns to female cops.
And that was one of the things.
That's a
joke. Oh, no.
Taser, bang!
Gosh.
I'm sorry.
No.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah, that one hurts.
Well, Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
So the other thing that I've seen a lot of people freaking out about is just like these states with open carry or what constitutional carry.
Constitutional carry.
You know,
it'll be the Wild West.
And I'm just like,
a year later.
I mean, we've had open carry here in Texas for a while, and it's like, I mean, it's like it gets to the heart of the Constitution. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is what it says.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why when we hire police officers, they have to take tests on accuracy and firearms and those kinds of things, because they have to show a level of proficiency, because they are going to be enforcing the people. The people don't have to show a level of proficiency because that's not required of them. They have the right to defend themselves as they see fit. And I mean, that's the thing that most people have freaked out about with the firearm, like constitution carry kind of stuff, is that there's no, requirement for training. And it's like, right, you are a human being. You have the right to defend yourself. If you choose to defend yourself with a firearm without getting training, that's on you. Yeah. And it's very stupid.
No, it's very stupid.
I mean, yes.
But you still have the right to do it. I mean,
you have the right to bear that firearm.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's not going to change.
It's a method of defending yourself against, an aggressors, be that
you and your loved ones.
Yeah.
Defending them against whatever
threat is coming towards you.
Yeah.
It's having that right of personal defense, which is also personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And while a lot of people don't want personal responsibility, they don't like the personal responsibility because like either they have to be in control or they're afraid of that personal responsibility and their life has not had consequences up until that point.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's a scary thought for someone who has personal responsibility and personal responsibility that they don't have control over.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where
even indirect control over like government.
And that's what's changed is a lot of the, and I know that we've talked about it before, but the fact that we don't have nearly as much of a religious population as we used to that believes in the Judeo-Christian principles has definitely led to a increase in the necessity for a more iron-fisted government to actually control human behavior.
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to Michael Malice recently. I actually pointed the direction of someone at my work who's listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, well, if you want something that has, a little bit more philosophic depth to it, listen to Lex Friedman and Michael Malice talk.
Yeah,
they have a really good podcast about authoritarianism, and they both talk about Lex Friedman's time in Russia and Michael Malice's time in Ukraine, both under Soviet control.
Interesting.
And they actually come from two different directions. Lex Friedman still believes in the necessity of state. Obviously, Michael Malice is in the opposite direction of there is no need for state.
Yeah.
Because state will always do evil.
Yeah. Yeah, full on anarchy.
Yeah, full on anarchy. But my only counter to that full on anarchy is that you would need, or it begets having a cohesive moral culture that is Judeo-Christian based.
Yeah, but it seems like Malice has sort of accepted that we won't have that and is willing to just go full Wild West, and that's something I'm like, I don't really want to do that.
Well, at the very, I think really what he's getting at is like he's trying to push that line to as far freedom as he can go.
Yeah, knowing
full well he can't reach that utopic view.
Yeah,
or that utopic point. He's just pushing that line as far as he can go to the freedom edge, to the freedom line.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Still like the guy, but some things are a little extreme.
Sure.
But I the more and more as time goes on, the whole line about police and their enforcement is starting to hit hammer on the head there.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's kind of causing increased at least awareness of how is policing done and what are the uses of police.
Yeah.
Man, it's one of those things where it's like the more I know that there are good people that work in law enforcement. I know that there are going to be good people that work at the FBI. There have to be good people that work at CIA. There's going to be good people. It's just that this seems to be the move of these organizations is moving to become a organization that no longer actually has ends that are aligned with goodness.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's more like and that it brings me back to it's Romans 13, I think, is the chapter where Paul outlines that the role of government is to there's the line in there that is the submit to governing authorities line. For the government, I believe it says the government is an avenging angel, punishing evil, and upholding good.
Right.
And I think we've even said it before. It's like if the government actually no longer punishes evil, the only thing it can punish is good.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the thing where it's like, okay, at that point, that's when you no longer can submit to those authorities.
Right.
And when we say no longer submit, it is peaceful resistance. That has actually been the most effective change in any historical context. The Christians that peacefully resisted Roman authority. I mean, Paul didn't die of old age.
Nope,
he did not.
There was a lot of martyrs that died.
Yeah,
but it was through peaceful means.
So So that's the.
Well, that's what it's called, martyrdom.
I mean, yeah, and that's why we don't have a letter from Paul saying, you know what, guys, I was wrong about this whole Jesus thing. The emperor is actually God. You know, because he knew that there were some things that.
There's some things that are a little more important
that the government couldn't compel him to do.
Yeah,
and that was to say that Caesar was Lord. He wouldn't do that, and so the Caesar cut his head off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like to go, and that's where I'm maybe like trying to keep the conversation open to people that are in the church pew and not willing to actually get up out of the church pew because they think that they're supposed to sit and to just not actually have like just no, I'm just here for me, and this is my and I don't, I'll just keep, let it if we continue to ignore what is happening,
maybe it will go away.
It's in the ostrich defense, so to
speak. Yeah, the ostrich defense. Well, I was going to ask, actually, was one thing I wanted to bring up was what were your thoughts on the message that was delivered this weekend
from Samuel Rodriguez?
Samuel Rodriguez.
I mean, I kind of loved it.
Kind of loved it?
Yeah. I need to go back and kind of rewatch it because he had a lot of energy, and obviously working, it's a little harder to just focus on everything.
Right.
But I think that is a much needed kick in the pants.
No, for sure.
For people to, and so like he was very outspoken, very motivated, and this is actually something that I was aware of. Maybe we've talked about it, but the part where he talked about the governor of California.
Yep.
And he also made a point, like, I didn't say his name, but the governor of California, I did not say his name.
Yep.
He said that multiple times. And do you know why?
No.
So, Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he was a senator, before he became president, his campaign for Senate was almost completely destroyed by the evangelicals campaigning against him by name. So, when he became a senator, he actually got a piece of legislation passed that if any nonprofit organization speaks out against a politician by name, they lose their nonprofit status.
What? Really?
That is a law that is on the books that was passed by our lovely Texas state senators. Because
in Texas?
No, it's national.
Oh, it's
national. It's a federal law now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so that is also why I think we don't see the church speaking out against people by name.
Well, the other thing is like people are like, there's so many churches in the United States. How come they don't take care of the homeless? Because churches constantly get fined for letting homeless sleep in their property, or even feed them because they don't follow the local codes. They don't do like they find have one code violation or whatnot.
The amount of nickel and diming to prevent churches from actually doing helpful stuff. Yeah. I mean, I've even maybe I haven't told you about my experience, but like we had a situation where we wanted to Sundays after church go feed people in downtown San Diego. And it was one of those things where it's like we were told, it's like, hey, you can't do that. You can't have this by police officers. And we're trying to, like, these people are hungry. They don't have, like, I mean, they have other places. Sure, they have other places to get food, but we're just helping them out. Yeah. And they're like, sorry, you can't serve, people like this. And so our workaround was like, all right, well, we're going to go just have a picnic in the park. And, oh, yeah, sure. These are our friends that are just joining us for a picnic in the park.
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
And that seemed to get by and work.
Well, it's interesting that the reason why that happens is because it's the same reason why restaurants and especially grocery stores, why they throw out so much produce. Yeah. It's because there's a precedent set that if a food is bad and is fed to a homeless person and that has gone bad because it was on its expiration date, they get sued. Yeah. So it's like, you know what? We're just not going to get sued. Sorry, you literally ruined it for the rest of us. Now we are legally obliged to throw this food away
and not give it away. Yeah.
So it's like these bad faith acting lawsuits have done this to those people.
Yeah. But that's like getting back to like Sammy and what he said.
But
I think like so he mentions, he's like, and I didn't say his name, but the governor of California. Yeah. bless his heart, you know,
Yeah.
like all that kind of like stuff that he was saying. Like, but again, like it's one of those things where it's like you
He
can't
really pushed that line.
like, yeah, like, but I mean, it was necessary because what they did in California was they literally shut down churches and told them that they couldn't meet. They couldn't sing. You couldn't sing worship songs in your own home.
Yeah.
That was the thing that they thought was an appropriate use of government authority. No singing, no singing worship. It's just like, you know, and that's where we no longer.
I mean, that's literally a First Amendment violation.
Yeah.
That literally by the text, like, it doesn't matter if.
Unless there's but you forget the clause that says unless there's a pandemic, then all of this just.
Oh yeah, you're right. I missed it at the very end of the Bill of Rights.
But again, we're not a nation of laws.
No,
we're a nation of political will, and if you keep the people scared enough, if you keep the people ignorant enough, then you can do whatever the heck you want to them because you have the authority.
Well, I mean, that's how Stalin got his power. He was terrifying to everybody, and he kept everybody in a perpetual state. Like, I mean, again, slightly going back to Michael Malice, he was talking about, and he got emotional about, they got the people to the point where all they could think about is, when am I getting my next piece of bread so I don't starve? Yeah. I don't care about anything else. I need to live. Yeah. And they push people to that point. And it's just like, it is just demonstrably evil. Yeah. And I mean, but you see a similarity to that with the government, the governor of California thinking, and the government of California thinking they have the audacity in their own right to enforce such a law. That's like, I mean, but Canada did the same thing. Canada dragged that priest dragged him to the police car and threw him in prison. It's just like, what the heck is wrong with you?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing where it's just like that is going to happen,
and the church is not even outcrying against that. That is like the other thing. It's just like, I don't think you're seriously a Christian then.
Yeah, and that's where it starts to get into the nitty gritties of what is someone's individual focus, and I'm not going to doubt someone's faith, or question someone's faith if they are scared. I think that is one of the things where it's like courage is a muscle, and it's going to take a lot because we've gotten way too comfortable just being comfortable and not having to actually speak out. We've got lulled into the false Fox News sense of security that, you know, all we need to do is sit down, tune in, go vote, and that'll be it. And it's just like, that's not the model of effectiveness anymore. And it really wasn't ever actually an effective model. I mean, it's an effective model if your goal is to actually be a, controlled opposition. Yeah. And that's where it's like, I'm starting to be more critical of the people that are at the upper echelons of conservative communication. Like, have you made enough money yet can we go save the country now? Yeah. Can we actually go save the country now? Yeah. Like,
are you willing to,
I mean,
are you willing to take the financial risk of,
but
you've also, you're absolutely right.
Like Sean Hackety, do you have enough vape pens stored up under your desk that you don't need to worry about that right now, that you could maybe go take a risk and actually say something that will actually further conservatism? I mean,
no, because he just looks at Tucker Carlson and gets jealous.
And I mean, Tucker is kind of the exception to a lot of that, even though he still is very cringe in a lot of ways. Yeah. But I mean, think of all the names that are on Fox that have major platforms. You've got Hannity. You've got
Hannity, Tucker,
Ingram,
Laura Ingram. Or you've also got
think about
that judge girl.
Yeah. So it's like you've got these people that are on there that are not actually. That are just sitting there going rah rah Republicans, rah rah Republicans, but not actually doing anything to limit the overreach of government. Like they are fine with the government doing whatever it wants to, as long as it's an R after their name. Yeah, and that's just as wrong as the government doing whatever it wants to you if there's a D after the name. It's the difference between Dick and Richard.
Yeah, yeah, not wrong.
It's not going to actually, and if that's the level of thought that we have in conservative media, is like, I don't actually care what they do, I just care if it's my team.
Yeah.
That's
because their team also will pay them a little extra money underneath the table and invite them to the cool parties with the other teammates.
It's all access media based. We'll give you a blurb for your next book that you're gonna just sell.
Give Dan Crenshaw a new eye patch.
Yeah, right. He's already got too many.
Yeah. Back to the message though. I liked it. I just wish he kept pushing a little harder. And I will also point out, it did make me hopeful on how well that was received. So I feel like that should be a call out to the likes of Pastor Robert to be like, hey, this is a serious thing.
Yeah.
And you need to take this seriously. So there's two other things I want to bring up. One is both surround the Pope.
Okay.
The first thing that surrounds the Pope is, I forget his name, but that Pope who just passed away. Pope Benedict. The first thing is on his deathbed, apparently there was a letter released post-mortem that said that he believes that we're living in the end times now, and was decrying the current Pope right now. Currently.
Oh, wow.
And basically saying that there is decrying him, saying like he is not a good Pope, for one.
Interesting.
And for two, I think he said specifically the Antichrist is already among us. But the other thing I wanted to bring up about the Pope is apparently there is a plot to undermine the current Pope to take him out of power because of all of the sexual abuse cases that have been going on and the mismanagement of the papacy and just the misdirection that has been going in a more liberalized left politicization towards socialism and whatnot.
It would actually be very interesting. Like, I don't know too much about the Catholic interpolitical situation.
I don't know either.
But from the snippets that I've heard, I have a personal friend who is very much in the Catholic faith. Haven't talked much about this with him, but I do also happen to listen to what would be a very conservative Catholic on a podcast as well.
Okay.
And one of the things that's interesting is that the amount of what would be considered like Opus Dei, like hardline Catholic, is actually on the rise, and a lot of it in Africa, and a lot of those bishops, cardinals. I'm not sure of the actual structure of
I think it's cardinals.
They're very conservative, if you would call it a political position, but it's considered like a very like they're very openly against a lot of that kind of stuff that has been coming. Like, I mean, you had the one was it cardinal that denied Nancy Pelosi the Eucharist, but then the Pope just went around him and gave it to her in person. It's just like, okay, that kind of thing is actually brewing within the Catholic Church. And so I would
that was the part, like the article head at the very least that I saw was like they're exploring options to remove him.
And I mean, I don't know if that's something that would actually take place or not. Like if that's something that has precedent.
Is it even possible to remove a pope?
I mean, other than through unaliving somebody, maybe, but that's not the right way to do that for sure.
Right.
So I think that there probably is some form of vote of no confidence that could happen in that case. But again, like even Benedict stepping down when he did for another pope was historic, because that's never happened as far as I knew, not in my lifetime, so yeah,
I don't know about I don't know, that's a lot of text to try and quickly read on Wikipedia about papal resignations, but first thing that popped up was resignation.
Yeah, so it's probably going to have to be someone intentionally steps down. Now, whether or not you can actually...
Who knows? This might be another schism, and we'll have a third church like the Orthodoxy schism.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, and like that would be but like, just if you did get enough internal pressure where the actual people underneath were no longer willing to follow, then obviously he's like, okay, I no longer have authority.
You don't have an authority. Well, they just have to undermine the authority.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Does Eastern Orthodoxy or just Orthodoxy Christianity have a papal leader?
I don't think.
Or is it just cardinals that lead local?
I think it's more just cardinals, but I don't think they actually recognize a pope of any kind.
Well, no, they especially don't recognize Catholicism, papacy.
Yeah.
The Great Schism is something. I need to really read up on my
history,
biblical or Christian history.
Well, it wasn't just the Protestant Reformation either.
No. I mean, there was the Great Schism that happened with Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then later it was
Protestantism.
Yes, that which apparently the Orthodox and the Catholics both don't like.
Yeah, which is funny. Hey, you stole our idea.
Yeah, you stole our idea.
Oh man.
I'm actually interested in what their grievances are because in my eyes, at least with Catholics, there's a lot of idolatry. But
yeah,
what do I know?
It's one of those things that again, just having discussed it with my friend on multiple occasions, he's made it clear of what it is for him is that it is not.
Yeah, I don't want to make a blanket statement here.
Yeah, but he also recognizes that like when he's in Mexico, he's like, yeah, bro, this is full on idolatry. Like that the way that they treat these Virgin
idolatry and also paganism, like just straight up.
Well, and that was something that I experienced in Peru as well. Was that the thing about Catholicism? Is the amount of patron saints that they have within it. It doesn't seem to ever get really clearly communicated, but it usually is used as a reskin for all of the, pagan deities that they're already worshiping. So in Peru, the Pachamama becomes the Virgin Mary, and like all of these other things, like it just gets a rehashing of.
Which is the exact opposite of what happened with the pagans in Europe and whatnot.
Yeah. So it's just like you're just like putting.
Well, the Pope has really dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah,
especially what goes on in Mexico and whatnot. That's just straight up occultism.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that for sure.
Also, Mexico on fire right now. Right? Probably not the best to go there. Right?
Yeah, that was bonkers.
Is it still going on?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I just remember seeing all those videos, and then even like, there's been so much that's like. Talking about Brazil too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brazil.
They haven't.
They're January 6th.
They even had a shaman.
Yeah, they did. Well, actually, that fit was fake. That was done.
I know.
That was done years ago. But
it's just like,
that's
my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Bolsonaro was. I think he's still in the hospital in the U.S.
I think he's in Florida, which is just like, of all places.
Yeah.
So that whole thing is just like, I don't even have the bandwidth to even try to wrap my brain around like what has happened here.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and again, it's the same kind of thing where I felt like Trump's whole, electronic voting ploy and play that he tried to do was so thin. Like there was absolutely nothing he could actually like. How do you go about proving that? Like, I mean, like there's ways to probably do it, but it's one of those things that's like you're picking and going after the horse that is the slowest possible answer to this question. Yes. And they're doing the exact same thing in Brazil. Like they're asking for the source code for the voting machines, for the electronic voting machines. It's like, you're not going to get what you want that way. No. Because no one, I think, is going to actually give you a straight answer if that's what they're doing.
No, it feels like a really controlled opposition at that point, huh?
It does. And I think like that's where it was frustrating to see something like 2,000 Mules come out later, which actually gets to the heart of the problem with ballot harvesting. Yeah. And how that operation works, when it doesn't matter what honestly, if the digital votes, the electronic votes who doesn't give a rip if they can actually stuff paper ballots in a box?
Oh yeah,
because they're just going to count until ad infinitum until the number gets exactly where they want it to be. Yeah, and that needs to change for sure. And I think that's like one of the things where it's like people are getting frustrated on the left, like coming from the just mainstream media perspective, of just saying like unfounded, blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, well, have you actually like whether or not this is unfounded? Maybe it is false.
Well, but that's always the first sentence that comes out of like the mainstream media to play cover is like unfounded or
and it's just like, but again,
proponent of a lie.
But beginning of 2016. Do you know who was so pissed off about Dominion voting machines?
No one.
MSNBC.
Oh, really?
Rachel Maddow.
Really?
Beginning of 2016, Dominion voting was on every channel about how the Russians hacked these machines.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so it's just like...
No, you're right.
And it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, you guys went for the exact same thing that got you nowhere.
But again, which is why it makes me think like
it's just a controlled opposition play.
Controlled opposition thing.
It's just giving.
We were getting a little too Alex Jonesy here.
It's giving illegitimacy.
Yeah,
a patina of illegitimacy to both sides to justify. All right, no, we're gonna do whatever we can to oust this, and so then yeah. Again, I don't know if that's, but the question is, it's getting to a point where a broad majority of the population is starting to not have faith in the validity of an election, and if that
is a big problem.
And if that threshold gets crossed, then that's
a big issue.
Yeah, like I mean, you have to restore faith in elections. You have to have integrity. That the number cast is, if that's how we want to actually run this thing, if we want to run it by the majority populist vote, then that has to be lock, stock, and tight. Numbers mean what they mean,
right?
And it's not. There's no way to fudge them, And like, I mean, I think the solution is simple. You make Election Day a national holiday. Everybody has the day off.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to go vote in person. The counting is done by 8 p.m.
Yep.
It's like, okay, and so the thing with the mail-in voting, I don't know if like this is something that you're even aware of, but the reason that mail-in voting and all of this takes so long is that they are not legally able to count the mail-in votes until Election Day after the polls close. That's
really? Well, I mean, that makes sense.
That's the explanation.
Okay.
So that's...
Well, also, I mean, I would say that would be the right way to go about it,
but
is to not open the ballots until then.
Yeah. It also, I think...
But the mail-in voting should be for people that are unable to go vote.
It should be very restrictive. It shouldn't be what it is now.
No, overseas military, they can vote. They just do a mail-in vote sort of thing.
Well,
or if you're abroad,
you
do a mail-in vote. Or if you're disabled in a hospital and you literally can't get up and leave.
And even still, the first instance of mail-in voting that was a real push for mail-in voting, in this country was, I believe, the state of New York during the Civil War. Actually was pushing. I could be wrong, but I think it was the state of New York. New York specifically had a lot of pushed for mail-in voting for the soldiers that were fighting
deployed and whatnot.
Yeah. The whole point was it was actually a big voter scam campaign from the get-go.
Oh, really?
And thankfully it was exposed by one honest guy who witnessed the whole thing, documented the whole thing, and then as soon as he got back to New York with the votes, was like, we need to burn all of these crates because they are all illegal votes.
Oh, really?
And basically did that. That's basically the story of what this guy did.
Oh, my gosh.
And then he's like, and I have the receipts from this man, they need to be arrested today. And he just had the wherewithal within him to be like, I'm going to follow this up until the right moment. At the end, I'm going to document everything about it. And all of y'all are going to jail.
Edward Snowden did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only more successful.
Right. Yeah. Actually, didn't have to flee.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. And so that was one of the first instances where mail-in voting was actually tried to be used in the country, and the original first usage of it was a massive voting scam. And it's just like, oh, the history of mail-in voting.
Yep. It's plagued with BS.
I mean, and I think it's also Athens, Mississippi, was the source of like a whole gun shootout over a ballot box in one capacity. Like, that's a wild story. I need to go look it up. It's actually in like a book that I have. But essentially, it was like a corrupt sheriff.
Oh, I know exactly. Yep, I know exactly what story you're talking about.
Yeah.
Count Dankula did.
Yes,
he's a great guy.
Yes,
he did a thing all about that and went through like the whole story of it.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's wild.
It is. I love that story so much.
It's pretty wild.
Because even they called the National Guard, and the National Guard said, "Nah."
Yeah, I know. It's just like
you guys run your own. It's
and
like,
I'm
what?
just like, dude,
there's no way that would have ever worked in modern times.
I mean, it's insane.
That is insane.
I mean,
there's nothing more American than that.
It's a very American story.
Well, they were even merciful to the sheriff's guys who were shooting back. It's like, all right, we're not gonna, come out with your hands up.
Yeah,
it's just like nobody died from it too.
I know.
People were injured, but nobody died.
I know. It's just crazy. Like, I just remember, it's like, man, voting and the amount of lengths people are willing to go to for voter fraud. It's just on both sides, man, too. It's and like, I mean, like, and that's where, like, you see, like, people that are at the leadership side of the Republican. It's people like Mitch McConnell, people like
Dan Crenshaw,
people like Kevin McCarthy. Mm-hmm. I'm forgetting his name, but it was the most, like, pathetic, like, just cringe-inducing thing was the congressman from Alabama. I can't remember his name.
Was he the one who went?
The one who went to try to assault Matt Gaetz.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that.
And I'm just like, really? That's what gets you riled up? And that's just, like, so is someone not going along to get along?
There used to be duels over actual issues.
No. It's not even about the fact that he wanted to fight. It's what he wanted to fight over. Yeah, he wasn't willing to fight for your right to actually have, your Second Amendment and First Amendment upheld. He was willing to fight because this guy is exposing my shit. Yeah, no, and exactly. He's exposing that I'm a fraud. Yeah, and that I'm here just to get my spot on the government team.
Oh yeah, well no, realistically, it's he's there to steal the silverware from the Titanic and take the big lifeboat.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's all that is.
And so, and that's what got him mad enough to try to assault someone was when his ploy was exposed. Yeah. It's
all of their ploys got exposed, and that's why they all got ticked off. That's why Dan Crenshaw got an eye patch for his knuckle, and his drywall has a bunch of holes in it now.
I'm sure that bill will be coming out of taxpayers.
So. Oh no, for sure, inevitably, and all that pizza that they ordered too.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous.
So, but that's the part where
the other thing, what really annoys me about that. It was exactly what you said, but like if you ever watch the movie Lincoln, like and you see that them in Congress there, like I know it's a dramatization, but like just how much screaming and yelling that there is, and how well used that gavel is for one, trying to obtain order.
Thwack, thwack, thwack,
thwack, thwack, thwack. But like, but I mean, during even the arguments during the Civil War, like even when the Civil War was going on, like there were people beating each other up in the Senate House. Like a dude almost killed someone with his cane because he was kind of whipping them with it.
Yeah, well, that's because he was calling them out on their crap.
Yeah, he was calling them out on their crap, and but also the equating. Saying like, everybody has a right to vote. These are people. Enslavement is not only morally wrong; it's biblically wrong. Yep. It's just like, God.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get all uppity that my shit's being exposed. I can't have that. Let me get my face pulled away by some other dude that comes up behind him. Also, what a weird way to pull someone back. That's someone who's never encountered a fight in their life. Yeah. Like, never. Like, he's always been a silver gold spoon kid. And he's just like, oh, we can't have this on TV. This will make us look bad. Just stop it. Oh, God. Anyway.
Yeah, that was... I mean, like, if that doesn't just speak of the most Republican line of thinking ever, it's like... This guy's not doing what he's being told to do.
Somebody stop him, please.
I know. I'll stop him.
I know what to do here. I'm going to give that Mr. Gates a piece of my mind.
And that's the thing where it's just like, okay, that is where I'm starting to think of. I'm actually more of a rhino now
Well,
because
I mean, those people aren't really rhinos. Really.
No, they're the real Republicans, and
No.
that's what they actually stand for. Is the corporatism, is the I'm going to just keep this system going along so I can keep making my own money.
Yep.
And that's republicanism and what the Republican Party stands for at this point.
Yeah, well, that's why there's only a handful of like good actual Republicans out there.
And that's where it's like we need to treat the Republican Party that way. As
it's funny. Like polls have come out that Democrats who vote Democrat are more enthusiastic and more approving of the people that they voted for in the Democrat Party than Republicans. There is a higher dissatisfaction of Republicans. I think it's like, man, I feel like it was a really low number. Like 40% of Republicans approve of the Republican leadership that they voted for.
Yeah.
But people vote for them because it's like, well, I'd rather the Democrat not win and maybe get like the step below, which is Republican.
Yeah, but that's also just like this such a false dichotomy.
Oh no, it is
because the reasons that Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell all keep winning is because they just don't let their people don't pay attention to primaries.
Well, no, nobody paid attention to primaries nor the local elections. And really what all that's doing is you're just taking a poison pill at a lower dosage.
Yep.
That's all you're doing.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it's better, but you're still taking poison.
I mean, it's gotten to that.
I also blame the Libertarian Party for this as well. Like, the Libertarian Party, in my mind, is a lot of just controlled opposition. Something's been in my eye. I'm going to close it. So, the Libertarian Party is just controlled opposition now. Because if they actually wanted to, win anything or any votes, what they need to be doing is they need to be going to these counties that only have one party member running for it.
Yep.
So, there's literally lots of Republicans that are just the only person running, so they win by default.
Well, I mean,
run in those counties and get more yellow in.
Yeah, I mean, but that would require the Libertarian Party to actually be serious about taking the reins of government, and that's sort of the whole antithesis of the Libertarian position, is that there are reins to begin with. So,
I would say that. Well, yeah.
So like they would actually have to.
There's less. Well,
I don't think that the. I mean, do I like libertarianism? Sure, it's not going to be. What am I thinking here? So it doesn't mean that your society is any morally better if it follows libertarian principles.
Right.
That's a spiritual equation.
No, right.
So it's like just because we have a libertarian economy or a libertarian form of government doesn't mean we have a good society. And so that's the part of that equation that's going to need to come into play is like the spiritual aspects for sure are going to
for sure
are much needed and actually I think worthy of focus, but it also requires engagement on the political level by the church to actually stand up and continue to just make their voice heard. And that's what we're starting to see from multiple people that have actually come, I mean, on Gateway's platform. Dr. Tony Evans had a very similar thing last year when he spoke. He said, everybody else is coming out of the closet. You might as well too. Yeah. So it's kind of how he challenged.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The church. And I was like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
And I mean that, and when we say it's like, what does that mean? That you actually just need to make your voice heard. It's like, no, there are not more than two genders. There's men and there's women. Male and female, he created him. That's how I know that. Is then the even furthering that conversation is like, no, you are not going to do a drag show for children.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen here. And if you continue with this, you will all be arrested. Like that is going to take the wherewithal that I'm not sure we have.
Oh, I forget what state was going to make that illegal. It might have been
Florida, but then they've just continued to run drag shows down there for kiddos. So we'll see if there's actually any.
I hope for sure.
I mean, they've got the videos of these that have been hosted. So I mean, there needs to that's the next step. Is like there actually does need to be arrests for child endangerment.
Yeah.
So
on the parents and as well as those performers.
Yeah.
And the people who organize those as well.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that Oh, I was going to say that. I forget. But anyway, so back when we were originally talking about the ATF pistol-based brand.
I know, right? We just have
that was a hookah tangent without the hookah.
Hookah-less tangent.
Hookah-less tangent.
But he kind of is.
No,
it flows.
Yeah, no. That flowed and that all worked together. I have the actual
the ATF
ruling here.
Yeah.
And this is just like 2 pages of it, but the summary is Department of Justice Department or DOJ amending the regulations of the ATF to clarify when a rifle is designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder, specifically under the Gun Control Act or the Gun Infringement Act of 1968 and the National Firearms Act of 1934. Definition of a rifle shall include the weapon that is equipped with an accessory component or other rearward attachment. Small text. Rearward attachment, e.g., a stabilizing brace, quote unquote, that provides surface area that allows the weapon to be fired from the shoulder, provided other factors as described in the preamble and the amending regulations indicate the weapon's designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that can be shouldered is a rifle.
Mm-hmm. Anything. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely going to need to be pushback on that because it's just like...
Oh, no, yeah. Go donate to the GOA, FPC, anything but the NRA.
Yeah, do not donate to the NRA.
No. The NRA will negotiate your rights away.
Yep. As they're whining and dining themselves.
Yep. I can't say what I want to say.
Okay. You can tell me what you want to say later. Yeah. No, I think that, 1, that's ridiculous. 2...
Oh, what about cheek weld pistols? Well, for one, those things are rare, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
No, they just said intended to fire from the shoulder. So I suppose you can do the cheek weld position.
Yeah.
But even though you're still squatting and doing that,
a cheek weld. Yeah.
You're getting a cheek weld. It doesn't say anything about cheek welding, but at least from the summary, they might go into further detail.
I mean,
but no, because it doesn't. You would need that section because what they're they're also saying that anything with a tubular device or anything that can be shouldered. So that was the whole point of this was that originally, if you remember, like 5-6 years ago, no, not quite that long, like 4 years ago, Trump was still president. So 4 years ago, there was they were talking about doing this again, and the big thing was the shouldered versus cheek position for the pistol braces, or even like you've seen a couple pistols that's AR pistols that's just a tube. It doesn't even have the slots for a stock. That's also illegal because you can shoulder it. So, I mean, unless you're going straight up on that upper receiver of the AR or whatever weapon, but like anything can really be shouldered if you try hard enough and bend your arms enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about, having that firearm under that 16-inch minimum.
That's so silly.
So I would say probably, I mean, an ATF agent who's huffing their own farts probably will try and ding you even if you try and cheek weld it.
Yeah. That's if they can
enforce it. I think they have less agents than OSHA.
Yeah,
and OSHA can only respond to I think 100.
Well, but in that other case too, it says ATF tends to rely on local law enforcement to do these enforcing.
Well, they rely on local enforcement and snitches,
and that's where it's like.
Well, that's why they're just going to go for big business and whatnot.
Well, and I think the places that this would actually end up getting enforced first is going to be blue counties, blue states, those kinds of places that are amenable to what the ATF wants to do because they're in line.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was going to see about... There was a post... There was a post that I saw that they also banned a bunch of guns by name, one of them being the Honey Badger.
Of course.
They've outright banned that one by name.
I mean, they banned the Honey Badger a long time ago, I thought.
No, it's still been around.
Okay.
Let me see if I can't find that again.
The Honey Badger was cool, though.
I mean, it's neat. I'm not. It's cool.
Yeah.
And But I also love that like GOA and FPC are immediately were like, okay, let's fight this.
Yeah.
You want to duke this out? Let's go.
Yeah. Yep. And that's going to just kind of be where that...
Gun Owners of America tweeted, on a completely unrelated note, here's a link to help you find your best local boating and fishing locations.
Yes, that's perfect.
So with that actually in mind, I saw a really cool... Okay, let me pull this up. But FPC had a really cool shirt that calls a lot of people out, and I really want to get it now.
What is it?
It's with like the throwing of guns in the I lost my guns in a boating trip, and how like no, you need to actually like fight back.
Yeah.
Peacefully.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about, resisting.
Yeah, resisting.
And that's a different thing.
Warfare will come when.
I mean, we still have access to lawfare, and we should absolutely use that and prioritize it.
I mean, I don't know. That's a good shirt right there.
It's nice.
T-shirts.
There's a lot of power in just saying no.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I love the Save the Dogs and Polish the ATF.
That's perfect. That's a really good one. I like that one too. And I'm sure that there's a lot of our canine friends that would have liked that earlier.
End Bracism. That's a good one. Let's see.
That's actually a very good point. The only reason that people don't like ARs is because they're black.
Yeah. Well,
they think they're they think they're black and scary.
Anybody who talks about gun control is like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was talking to a racist. Sorry, it's okay. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was the.
I'm not going to abridge your freedom of speech.
And this is why I love FPCs, because they're also really behind 3D printing of guns and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, have you know anything about 3D printing guns?
I mean, I know that it's possible.
Oh, it's not only possible;
Yeah.
it is completely. I mean, there's thousands of FCG 9s in Myanmar, and they're actively fighting against the government in Myanmar. Like, they are legitimately being used.
Wow.
Anybody can make them, and the prints. And not only can you print it, but you can also there's even instructions on how to chrome and rifle a barrel.
Oh wow.
And how to make a barrel. Just go into your hardware store and make an FCG 9 for less than like $200.
That's wild.
Not including the printer.
That's wild.
And you have a fully fledged gun right there. Rest in peace, Jay Stark. He was the guy who made it, by the way.
Yeah.
And the Germans killed him.
I do remember that. Yeah, that's a good shirt.
Oh, and then this one's also good. Go and make it, which has the Liberator pistol on it.
Yes,
the 3D printed Liberator pistol.
See, and that's where it's just like even for me, gun control is just a complete loser, because that's possible.
Oh yeah.
Like you could get rid of, conceivably, if you could, let's say you had the ability to wave a magic wand like in a D&D game and make every firearm disappear.
People will just start stabbing each other.
You can't.
And there would be sword control.
But no, it's not even that.
Cavalry control.
No, you just made the firearms disappear. You didn't make the knowledge disappear.
Wow, that's true.
I mean, people are just gonna all right, I'm just gonna make the
go make new ones. But even if you got rid of the knowledge of, like, what do you think people were doing in medieval times? They had swords.
I know.
They had
right?
knives. Like, the whole point of grabbing somebody by the handshake originated was grabbing out of the arm to make sure they didn't have a hidden dagger right there. This is like, well, are you bloody insane to not realize the history of the world?
Yeah,
is like, no, like, the precedent of being able to defend yourself is a natural right. That's why we call them natural rights. Rights.
Yes.
Because you've always had the right to defend yourself. Like, people, at the very least, you have a bloody rock, or hit somebody over the head with my water bottle.
Yeah.
Like, anything can be an assault weapon
if you use it for purposes of assault.
Yes, exactly. Assault is the legal term. The weapon is separate.
And I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. The more people every year are killed by just like feet and hands.
Which is why Joe Biden stopped the CDC from reporting those things.
Yes.
And also diversifying of why people have died from gunfire, because they added. Yeah. Because they always add suicides to the gun violence number.
Yes.
When suicides are really high with guns.
It's something by at least 2/3 last I remember hearing.
And because everybody's been killing themselves over COVID, like there was a mass suicide wave just over COVID.
Yeah.
And those guys, so they're like, somehow over COVID, there's been an increase of gun rights or gun crimes. Like, no, a lot of people just shot themselves.
Yeah.
So good on you for not only being a POS for standing on the grave of that dead person, trying to utilize them as a political tool, but also screw you for trying to take away guns by standing on the graves of people who were depressed and you didn't do anything to try and help them. If anything, you put them in that grave.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think that is where the next track is going. I'm actually really wouldn't say looking forward to it, but I've ordered a book that should be coming out in March. It's The Rise of the Fourth Reich by Steve Deace.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's basically presented as the legal argument in the style of a Nuremberg trial, but it is presented as a legal case against this government and what they did during lockdowns and vaccines. And I'm pretty sure that you can read their opening statement of the book at trialsandexecution.com.
So I wonder what the punishment is.
Yeah, I mean, a fair trial.
Yeah, no. That's the whole point of our legal system is fair trial.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of that, I had an argument with my friend Abel, and we were talking. I forget what we were really talking about, but I made a point of we were talking about legality and stuff or violence and such. I think as I mentioned, it was because of the Houston thing. Remember that Houston restaurant guy who shot the person who was robbing the place?
Right. The guy that shot him and walked away?
Mm-hmm. The guy who shot him and walked away. He also just turned himself in with his lawyer, by the way. That was an update to that story for those who missed it. But Abel was talking about, like, he brought up the Kyle Rittenhouse, and then he also brought up, or I brought up the George Floyd thing. And I said that I believe that the cop whose name is escaping me right now,
involved in the Floyd incident,
should have never been tried because he would not. There was no justice to be served there. It wasn't blind. It wasn't fair. He never would have had a jury that could. He would never have had an unbiased jury or an untainted jury. We founded our legal system on the belief that it is better that 100 guilty men go free than one non-guilty person be punished.
It's no longer that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But we founded that principle in our country's legal system. That's why Lady Justice. That's why she's wearing a blindfold. That's why she's and also weighing the scales. Yeah. Because it's blind. You have to have that sort of system of. We have a jury, a trial of your peers, of your peers. There's nobody would be untainted from that, and also all of the stuff that happened with the jury immediately taints them because they had to go out on armored buses.
Yeah,
like
and it was.
He should never been tried just because there wouldn't have been justice served, and then there wasn't justice served.
And I mean.
Regardless of situation, regardless of whether or not the dude's guilty or not.
Yeah, I don't like the statement of he shouldn't be tried just because we can't be fair. I'm trying to think of what I think would be a better solution though, and I don't really have one. I mean that's the risk that you run when you're trying to have justice in a society that is no longer capable of being fair. Yeah, is we're no longer at that place, but I don't think it means you don't attempt to find justice.
No, I'm not saying you don't attempt it. I more so in that it is a little more specific of an example. Yeah, but also to prove the point that justice is no longer blind. And it's
everybody has
unless you get some mountain men in Appalachia who don't have TV or cable, who don't even know what hip hop is.
Yeah, but the effects of that situation with George Floyd were far-reaching almost immediately.
No, it was worldwide news,
and it was one of those things where it's like even I saw just the video, and even from that snippet of video, I was just like, yeah, this does not look right. Yeah. This seems like this needs to be investigated. This needs to be very thoroughly looked at because this is not right.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to be looked at. And again, from the information that came out of that case, we found out that there was lethal amounts of fentanyl in George Floyd's system.
Oh, no, it wasn't the knee on the neck or the supposed knee on the neck that killed him. It was the fentanyl. Like all autopsy reports, and even in the court case, the defense had to admit that it wasn't the action of the police officer that killed him.
I know that they even demonstrated, I think, in court, the action was, taught.
Yeah.
That the action was.
Well, he was taught that.
Yeah, and that. Yeah, but yeah.
I mean, he should have used his better judgment and probably said like, maybe that's not a good thing. But he was also fresh on the scene for one, so he didn't really have much context to work with. And they took him out of the vehicle by his request, and the dude was starting to go erratic because all those drugs were starting to get into his brain, and the ambulance was still on its way. And they're like, default to training, and people started making a crowd and filming and whatnot.
Yeah. I forget what it was called. Like, it's excited delirium, I think, was the term that has been associated with like that overdose of fentanyl, where it's like you feel like you can't breathe because it literally does shut down your your brain function to control your lungs.
Yeah.
And he was even repeatedly saying that he couldn't
breathe.
But he was saying that even in the vehicle, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was saying he can't breathe. Yeah. That's why they took him out of the vehicle, because it was like claustrophobia sort of thing, and freaking out, which he was, but that was just because of all the drugs he had just ingested.
Yeah. I mean, it even still reminds me of the Tony Timpa situation as well. It was here in Dallas. Like, it's the exact same thing with another gentleman who was disturbed, who had officers on top of him that did not actually help him, but caused his death.
Yeah.
Or potentially caused his death. But they were acquitted because there was reasonable doubt as to whether or not their actions actually
contributed to the man's death. Well, and that's why I would, but it is interesting that, I would agree that maybe, absolving him, is not the answer. However, I don't know of a better one in how we maintain justice being true and blind.
Yeah.
How do we uphold that tenet of the innocent need to be defended by any means necessary? It's not the Burgundian, or no, I suppose it is Burgundian, but it was Bismarck, the Bismarck method of it's better that 100 innocent people go to jail rather than the one guilty man go free.
Yeah, just sort of the opposite.
It's the exact opposite, which is barbaric.
So that I wouldn't have. Yeah. I think that the issue at large is not one that's just going to be solved with just that situation being tried or not tried, because it's we the people are sick in a lot of ways, and we get the government we deserve, and right now the government we're getting it good and hard, so
you're get that right. Oh boy.
Yep.
How long have we been at this?
About 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours? Yeah. It's much shorter than I thought.
I know.
I'll be honest.
Yeah. Did I do math right?
I just looked at it. It was 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean so that's guns, but I hope that I actually am gonna when I get paid next time, I'm actually gonna donate to FPC, and I'm probably gonna pick up a couple shirts.
There you go.
Just to support them, because like that. I mean, that also not only have I wanted to been doing that in the past because they actually are good on their word.
Yeah.
But also because I have an invested interest in maintaining such legality. I mean, and if it's being banned, then
all right.
But
cool.
I guess.
Cool story, bro.
Cool story, bro. But but this is just the stepping stone to mass disenfranchisement of all firearms across the United States.
Yeah, no, and I mean the only people that it actually affects are those that are, willing to abide by the law.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people already don't abide by the law. Look at 3D printer guys. Across the world. Rest in peace, Jay Stark. I was gonna say, have you been paying attention to the whole Joe Biden with the documents and whatnot? The thing that the FBI is definitely raiding. I mean, sorry, not raiding his places for.
I had a thought.
Uh-oh.
And it was interesting because it's like people like the whataboutism of the Trump thing, and then the one thing for me that actually is, what if they're actually more linked? So it's kind of like a 1-2. It's like they found out about Joe Biden's classified documents, so they intentionally were like, okay, we need to handle this, but we can't just go after Joe Biden, so we need to go after Trump first, and then we can go after Joe Biden.
Well, no, that says the precedent. I don't know. Well, the precedent doesn't matter with these people.
Yeah. No.
I was gonna say someone put out an interesting idea or an interesting theory is that they're trying to they're trying to try and push Joe Biden out of office.
Oh, I totally believe it. I mean, it was the same thing that happened to get him the nomination.
No, that's true.
In 2020, it was like the call went out, and Super Tuesday, suddenly Joe Biden's the man.
Mm-hmm.
And after having abysmal showings previously, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He was unpopular even when he got the nomination.
Yeah. So that I totally believe is definitely a possibility that it actually is the
not to be tinfoil hat theory, but
I mean, there's plenty of tinfoil to go around these days.
That is true,
and it's less of a conspiracy theory and more of just spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
In other news, NASA discovered a planetary system, second Earth-sized world.
Oh, cool. They have pictures.
Well, they have artist rendition, but that's what it looks like. Kind of like Tatooine a little bit.
Yeah, look at that. A lot of orange.
Yeah, a lot of orange. The world is 95% Earth size and likely rocky.
Okay.
Previously discovered 3 planets in this system called TOI 700 BC and D. Planet D also orbits the habitable zone, but scientists need an additional year of test observations to discover TOI 700E.
So it's considered a habitable planet?
It is a rocky planet about Earth-sized in the habitable zone of the sun. Are you familiar with the habitable zone? Yeah. Okay. I don't have to explain it to you.
No, yeah. I mean, the idea that 1 inch to the left or to the right is...
I mean, yeah pretty
basically.
much. Pretty much. Let's see. Let's see. How far away was this planet again? I mean,
it seemed like a lot.
It wasn't that much farther. It wasn't really that far from Earth, I think. The innermost planet is about 90% Earth size and orbit. A locked planet going around a sun, it would still have a
tidal lock.
Oh, right. No, yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't. Well, you would have a ring around the. You would have a ring around the planet that would be habitable. Yeah. So you would have the planet, and then the sun's right here. So this would be like desolate, no water or anything. But everything would be habitable right here, where it's day and night meets.
But you won't actually have days and nights because it's the faces.
Well, no, you would have day and night. You just got to do a couple mile walk one way or the other.
All right, I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed. I'll see you on the other continent.
Right.
Wow, 10 days. That's crazy. The universe is so amazing.
It's pretty
God's
wild.
creation is so great.
It's pretty great.
TOI 700C is over 2.5 times bigger than Earth and completes its orbit every 16 days.
These things are,
and then it says these planets
whipping.
These planets are probably tidally locked, which means they spin only once per orbit, such as one side always faces the star, just as one side of the moon always turns towards Earth.
Yeah.
We might have let's see. Which TO700E, which also might be tidally locked, takes 28 days to orbit its star, placing E between planets C and D and also the so-called optimistic habitable zone.
But
that's kind of self-detrimenting right there.
But it's also still probably tidal locked with how fast it's like rotating around that star.
Yeah. Wow, that is going fast.
Yeah.
Jeez. Does anything around Earth? No, everything around our solar system is much slower.
I don't
or
actually.
Maybe not necessarily tidal locked. It could be like a Venus situation where it takes a year for it to do one full rotation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. So I might have asked you this before, but this was a clever segue. Not so clever.
Aliens?
Do you think aliens are out there?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Mm-hmm. I'm leaning more and more towards probably not.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say probably not?
Just biblical understanding of what's there and how it's discussed.
Where's your creativity, Stu?
And it's like, again, I'm not discounting it. There's nothing that I would say it's like specifically, for or against alien life being a thing. I mean, who knows what the Nephilim actually were, all that kind of stuff.
There are some weird things in the Bible.
Yeah. I mean, so, yeah.
And a couple books that have been removed, too.
It's getting into some Dan Brown level crap.
Yeah. Some ancient alien stuff. Yeah. I love that show, by the way. It's so much fun to watch. These crazy people.
Who built the pyramids? No.
People. How did they know that this was going to work? I looked at a mountain, so it was in the shape of a triangle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. How did everybody in the world know how to make pyramids?
Right.
It's the simplest shape.
There was actually a comedian that had a bit about how it's like people have just baffled themselves silly trying to figure out who built the pyramids of Giza. But this is how you know that there's amazing workers in Mexico, because there's pyramids in Mexico and nobody doubts who built those.
Yeah.
I was like, there's some solid work there.
Yep.
I was like, that's awesome.
I mean, there's a pyramid in Memphis too. We know how that one was built.
Right. That one's a little more shaky.
Well,
yeah. There's also
it's not permanently flooded rather than just intermittently flooded.
There's also a pyramid in Vegas. It's got a giant light at the top.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of like where I'm leaning more towards. I would say that things that are,
if you really want to get crazy,
yeah,
and figure out where Roman concrete comes from. We still have no idea.
No idea.
And that's a big thing because it sets underwater.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's why Roman concrete's so cool.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I didn't know about that.
The island. There's an island in Indonesia that because the plate is constantly rubbing against it, the island actually sinks every 50 years because the plate's moving so fast. It's literally pulling it, and then it releases and does a tsunami.
Oh, geez.
On a cycle consistently.
Wow.
So it's constantly going under, popping up. Constantly going under, popping
Interesting.
up. Yeah. It's really cool.
That's very interesting.
This world is amazing, man.
That's some wild stuff. So back to the aliens question.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm more now leaning towards the idea that
that's true. Ancient Damascus steel is still unknown. That's
true. Yeah.
I think the process to get all of the carbon and impurities out of the steel with the with only the steel kilns that they used at the time is unheard of, on how they did that specifically. But yeah, I remember watching a documentary on that, and they're just we don't know how it got to this purity. Maybe it's some steel that they don't know about. Could have been an asteroid, because they literally only found one sword that had this Damascus purity level to an extreme degree.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, what were you going to say? I just wanted to respond to chat.
Yeah, for sure. The more I think about alien encounters and those kinds of stories, I would actually favor that it's probably more of a
acid trip
or spiritual entity manifesting in a way that it's choosing to disguise itself as something else.
Okay.
And thus giving, whatever reasons for that a little bit more
interesting
a hide to that level. And yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I think that that is more, I'd say, biblically accurate.
Okay.
At least in my current understanding. And again, it's not that it's not possible, but it does throw into a lot more questions about the origins of, okay, well, how did life actually begin here if there's also life there?
Man, so
it brings up the theistic evolution questions, and
it also brings up the creation of the creation of, was it made in 7 days, or was it made over
Yeah.
billions of years. I'm on the side of it. To me, it just makes more logical sense that we came from God just saying, let there be light, and that being the Big Bang. Because that was originally what the Big Bang Theory was.
Yeah.
It was just co-opted.
Yeah.
Because like even Stephen Hawking, like when he was asked, like, okay, what was before the Big Bang? He said it was always there. Okay, so why can't you say the same thing about God?
Yeah.
You know, you're the line between those two ain't too far apart, buddy.
Yeah, you're right there.
But he says that's impossible. So whatever.
Yeah.
What do I know? I'm not in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But no. Insults aside,
It does make you more smart to be in a wheelchair.
well, yes. And talking through a computer.
Yep.
I'm of the belief that it just makes more sense to me because not only does it say like 7 days, but also it says that God's time is different from ours. And
I mean, you're talking about a being that is outside of time.
right, God is outside of time. He's before and after time, and everything in between.
There's a line from I'm not sure if we've talked about Rob Bell, but Rob Bell had I think it was a very well done, presentation about the opening chapters of Genesis. And he just is kind of breaking it down in the Hebrew and what it is. He's later gone into a lot of really weird stuff lately, and I don't really account as much anymore. It kind of makes me go like, well, if you're willing to kind of go that route, I maybe need to look a little more seriously at how you were interpreting things there.
Right.
But one of the lines is like where he talks about you have a being outside of time, and you're trying to understand that concept of like, how do I understand this? And he just addresses you as I am, and it's like, that's not helping.
That's not helping. I mean, it's the answer, but that doesn't help.
Yeah.
You're not helping us with the path here.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that kind of struck me as really funny. It's like, and so when he helps by saying I am, and you're just like, that doesn't help. It was just a really funny outburst.
You're giving us the answer.
Yes.
How did you get to that answer?
Yes.
We need to see the equation in your work.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you think about how would a being outside of time introduce itself to beings within time? It's just as like, well, I am.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah. Well, and it also kind of coincides with every interaction with an angel just being like unfathomable. Like literally unfathomable.
Yeah, literally like, I need to be face down on the ground right now.
Yeah, like, because you just can't deal with that imagery.
It's also
don't know what's happening.
It's also why it all usually starts with, don't be afraid, don't be afraid.
Yeah, fear not, fear not, fear not. I'm freaking out, man.
Yeah. So,
oh, man.
Yeah, and that kind of thing is, like I said, why I would lean that is more likely, I think, an explanation for what people have referred to as extraterrestrial encounter. I had a whole idea at one point that was from kind of talking with another friend for a sci-fi premise of some kind of thing that was probably not going to come to any kind of fruition. But it was the idea that, alien abduction actually is, some form of spiritual, most likely demonic
rapturing of some sort.
And the whole purpose is based off of the line in Genesis that the sons of God went into the daughters of man to create the Nephilim, the men of renown, and that whole thing being what they were attempting to try to recreate again. And
interesting.
Yeah. So
now that's a neat story.
Yeah, but we'll see.
I would do something with that.
Yeah. So, but that probably, like I said, is not going to be a thing.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting to me for a story at the very least. And I'm a storyteller at heart, so.
Right.
Yeah. I'm on the side of, I do think there's alien life out there.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much credence behind the creation of the heavens and earths.
Sure, yeah.
And whatnot.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fair.
Maybe I'm putting too much credence in there, but it's just like, but it's also like on a statistical level, the galaxy and the universe as we know it is vast.
Yeah.
And like a galaxy in of itself is vast. Even if like our known universe is just one galaxy, that's like that in of itself is immense in scale.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about other galaxies surrounding ours. It's like, but they're like statistically, there has to be at least animal life on other planets.
Yeah.
Like mammal, reptilian, or whatever,
Well, I mean,
or avian.
haven't they found like bacteria and those kinds of things?
Yeah, they found bacteria on Mars and whatnot. But I'm talking more on like an ecological level,
like actual like mammals,
forests,
or
rainforest, oceans with ocean animals and whatnot. Whether or not there's sentient alien life out there, I don't know. The sci-fi nerd in me wants to say yes, please. I would love to say yes.
I just want to meet one Bothan.
Yeah, literally, just one. Or just any alien for that matter. But mostly because it's also like my sci-fi brain being like, what would they look like compared to us? Would they be human? Because they could also be God's creation, and they're And there's a story idea I had for a long time of like a first contact with an alien species, and the introduction of the religions of the planet, and they're like,
that one's familiar.
That's really familiar. Can you say that again? Like, created by a god, and a savior came to the earth to save all the people. That's awfully familiar.
You find out like their ancient Hebrew is like identical. You're like, what?
Yeah, no, exactly. That would be like the whole like crux and story idea, and then kind of like as a question to the reader, be like, do you think this is blasphemous, or do you think it's a possibility? Like, could we really be the only things in this universe?
Yeah. I mean, I don't hold it with
religious dogma or like
certitude.
There you go. Certainty. Yeah. I'm not saying it with certainty either. It's just maybe it's just a.
And then which way you want it to be, or which way you hope it would go.
So what do you think about? So this is a small rabbit hole, but the whole connection with DMT and God, angels, and whatnot being on a dimension above us, and demons and whatnot being on a dimension lower than us.
Well, I don't know if that is necessarily how I would envision it. I just do imagine that there being different dimensions of reality that we are unable to perceive. Yeah. And that there could potentially be beings that are able to access and use those dimensions in ways that we can't fathom. I think that that's definitely a possibility, but it's one of those things where it's just, that idea of DMT specifically and what that opens you up to just does not seem like me personally. It's something I ever want to try to experience or pursue.
I mean, same. I'm not by no means am I encouraging it or saying, but I bring that up because a lot of people have the same experience whenever they take DMT. Yeah. And they see the same things. Right. And I was even talking to my mom about this because she was, a 70s girl. So she did a lot of, I don't want to talk negative of her, but she was a wild kid. And I was talking to her about this, and I was saying, and I asked her two questions. One was with the DMT thing, and she said, if I recall right, she said, yeah, there was definitely instances of people who took like psychedelics and were seeing the same thing. But she thought that it was just more so they were saying this stuff out loud,
and someone's agreeing.
And someone was agreeing, like, "Oh yeah, I see it too, man." And then later they say the same thing, but one person was like guiding them, like with the ayahuasca stuff. Yeah. But the other one thing was that do you think? I asked her if she thought that drugs was a gateway to demonic investment into a person. She said, "Oh, absolutely." Yeah, because she has taken too many like acid hits that have gone really bad, and she absolutely felt a demonic presence there.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where it's just
she doesn't do drugs anymore. By the way, yeah, like that was like 40. I don't want to date my mom. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to date your mom.
No. Yes, that too. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I agree. I think that is something that was sort of trivialized in the 60s and 70s, just as kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, it's nothing. It's a big, it's man, Yeah. And the amount of, what you're doing to not only your brain,
Mm-hmm.
but your body. Like, I think that there's something that's,
damaging
there, but it also is,
I mean, there was a study done, like brain scans of people who have done drugs, and it's like, no, you actually get brain damage. And you're not as smart and philosophical as you think. That's why I love eating. That's why I love eating like Timcast, because Milo Yiannopoulos called him out. I was like, no, you're not. Like, you're not a philosophic thinker. Your brain is just rotten.
Yeah,
and that like,
so
it was
funny.
like, oh.
That's so funny.
But that is so true, because I've encountered people who've taken drugs and whatnot. Like, there was this one guy I was working with, he reeked of weed, but like he thought he was like trying to use like complicated ideas and whatnot. I was like, dude, you're 10, 20 paces behind. Because you think you're a philosophic thinker. You're not. Yeah. Like, come on.
Well, and that's one of the things where it's like you're not actually it opens up in a sense to something that as Christians I think we are encouraged to be sober minded. And that's sort of the antithesis of what would be the, Christian ethic and how that should be pursued. I mean, there's a lot of things that as we pursue righteousness, as we pursue holiness, what that should actually be leading us towards.
Right.
And opening yourself up to doing potentially mind-altering drugs is probably not one of them.
No.
And the other thing too, it's like you see like similar stories of people that do things that are mind-altering. Like you see similar stories of the people that have severe head trauma come like, out of those similar after effects where it's, personality changes, those kinds of things. Yeah.
No, I was going to ask, so what would your response be? Because some people say that like Ezekiel's wheel and all that stuff was just people, or even seeing like God and whatnot, were all just, they were taking drugs to try and get to that point, or they were just high on drugs.
Well, there's similar chemicals that are released in the brain that are affiliated with religious worship.
Well, I mean, the pagans did that, the Celts and whatnot. They did a lot of that.
But not that they're actually
Americans and the Aztecs.
Not that they were taking something to induce that vision, but just that at certain levels of spiritual meditation and prayer and worship, that you see responses on a physiological level that are similar to what some would say as a trip. Or having a sense of euphoria about a lot of those things. So there's something about the spiritual connection that can release that and can actually produce that chemical response in the brain. But I think that using drugs or chemicals to circumvent that process and not actually doing it through actual legitimate worship, through actual, legitimate prayer, fasting, meditation, that is, a shortcut, and that's going to be getting you somewhere.
Well, I mean, in a shortcut, you always go over a bumpy road usually. So
typically,
you hurt yourself along the way. So I know that was a couple esoteric questions, but I don't know.
They're fun though. I mean, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, just fun little postulations. Yeah. I was using all our vocab words today.
It's the $2 words.
Yeah, it's the $2 words.
Yep.
Well, we started this with talks of D&D and the OGL, and then we went straight into the talks of guns and how the government hates us.
Doing all sorts of
Yep.
All sorts of stuff.
Yep, all that awesome stuff.
I have a question.
What?
So does that mean you talked about what Loxy is doing?
Yep.
And how
all of
that is?
All of it is.
You thought I was lying.
Because it was so crazy. So he originally sent me the stuff over the OGL, and I was like, "There's no way they're that stupid." Apparently, they are that stupid.
Yep.
But we already went over it, so.
Yep.
Nope.
The Smokeless
Signal podcast today.
Smokeless signal?
Yeah, the Smokeless Signal.
Yep. Clear signal.
Clear signal. Yeah, there we go.
Mark this in the calendar.
Yeah. Well, see, we've been at this for 3 hours now.
Yeah. So I think maybe next time we'll get into more movie-based things. But I think it'd be fun for you to watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels as well as Snatch, and then we can maybe talk about them because I think they're very good.
I was going to ask about you see all the hubbub about Puss in Boots.
I don't know about that at all,
Okay.
actually.
Well, okay. It's a popular movie coming out that's out right now, and apparently it's really good.
That's what I've heard. It's highly accepted and highly rated.
Yeah.
And higher than Avatar.
Yes, it did more than Avatar too.
Yeah.
Which I suppose I still need to watch.
Yeah.
Is it on any streaming platforms, or is it still in theaters?
No, it's still in theaters.
I kind of don't want to make an excuse to go to the theater.
Yeah.
But popcorn.
Mm-hmm. Decisions.
Well, that's a decision I'll have to think of when we're at another time. But for now, I think we'll have to call it quits.
Cool.
For now.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening.
Tap the like.
Tap the like button and the subscribe button. Yep. Hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we go live again. We are going to be investing, I think, more into this podcast.
That's the goal.
And getting more of a fixed schedule for podcasting, and along with improving the podcast. So if you actually have any suggestions for what you want to see in the podcast or how it
just
improved,
let us know.
Let us know in the comments section. We do our best to check them whenever we can.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.